7 o'clock on a Friday morning, April 25th. Welcome into McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and John Saber filling in for the guys this morning. But much like the first hour, we're going to have some fun today. We got 3 hours here from 7 to 10. Going to talk to Teron Davenport at about 7:20. He covers the Tennessee Titans. As we discussed earlier, our Super Bowl chances have definitely increased with drafting Cam Ward, first overall in last night's NFL draft. Also, Lance Zierlein coming up at 8 o'clock. Got a chance to talk with Cole Cubelic and discussing NFL drafts. And, I mean, when you look at what happened last night, Conrad, the trade early on, of course, we knew that Cam Ward was going to be the number one overall pick. And for the pageantry of what comes with the number one overall pick, it really wasn't that exciting because everybody knew that Cam was going.
Yep.
But the number 2 spot was the Cleveland Browns, but then they trade back with the Jacksonville Jaguars and they take Travis Hunter. And, we were at Trent Tab last night and everybody kind of like paused for a second, like, wait, whoa, okay, that's a good trade. But now the question is if you're Jacksonville, are you going to put Travis Hunter mostly at receiver, or are you pretty much telling him, hey, you're a defensive back and we'll give you some spot plays on the offense? Because one, you paid Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. You drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU last year. So you've got a number one guy. Well, he developed into being that number one guy. But I'm interested when we looked at, the early trades and just the overall first round. I think at the number 2 spot, how quickly it changed of, okay, yeah, if you're Cleveland, you're thinking, oh, if we get Travis Hunter, we can build some pieces around. We should be okay. But now when Jacksonville gets him, you take a step back. And I'll tell you straight up, as the AFC South guy, like the whole draft for the AFC South kind of threw me for a loop because we knew that we were getting Cam Ward, but I think Travis Hunter now get in that division. And then later on, we see Tyler Warren going to the Indianapolis Colts. It's okay. Well, this could actually be pretty interesting.
Yeah. And then the Texans, they trade out of their first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll wait and see what they do later on today. But I will say this. I thought for Jacksonville, you needed to make a big splash, right? You have a new GM. You're going to be fired up going into your first draft, right? You want to make your mark on the franchise and let everyone know, hey, I'm here and I'm in business. And they certainly did. They traded a good number of picks, including their first round pick this year, first round pick next year, and a couple of other picks to the Browns to move up from 5 to 2. And you did that. And in a lot of people's eyes, you got the best prospect in the draft, right? Cam Ward was always going to go number 1 because he's quarterback. But Travis Hunter, by most experts, was viewed as the best prospect. If there was one guy that you absolutely could not miss in this draft, it was Travis Hunter. And I think we all know that he's such a special talent. And the fact that you even can ask the question that you just did of, do you want to make him, kind of your 1B receiver opposite Brian Thomas, or do you let him go and run things there in the backfield and hope that you get maybe the next Jalen Ramsey, and you kind of replace what you had in him a handful of years ago when he was the best young DB in the league. And it's a great situation to be in, right? If you're Jacksonville, because you have a lot of opportunities. And I'm not going to be surprised again. I don't think that I do not expect him to be a full-time two-way player.
Right.
You're going to see him on off. There's going to be a package for him, right? I don't know what kind of snaps we're looking at in terms of, how many snaps he's going to play on which side of the ball each game, but I would think you're going to use him both ways. And I thought that was a great pick, though, for Jacksonville, right? Because you feel good. You have a number 1 receiver. You feel good about Trevor Lawrence, or else you wouldn't have paid him. Now, maybe we don't feel as good about Trevor Lawrence as they do, but you've seen signs of him continuing to get better as long as he can stay healthy there. You do also have Gabe Davis there in the wide receiver room, who we know is a big play threat. That's really all that he is, but he's a big play threat. So you have another guy there as well to pair up with Brian Thomas Jr. But I thought that was a great move by the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got to take a risk sometimes when you want top talent like this. I certainly think that was a good decision, because the whole Ashton Genty thing, because that was the belief, was they were going to stay at 5 and take Ashton Genty. I thought that was a little odd. I know Etienne's in the last year of his rookie deal, but Tank Bigsby really showed a lot of things last year when he kind of took over that running back room for a while. So you didn't need him, but it certainly would have helped. But I think Travis Hunter was a great pickup there. You just had to pay a lot to go get him, but that's who they had at the top of their draft board from what we were hearing. So good for them. They got the guy they wanted.
Absolutely. And just taking a peek at round one, what happened in the NFL draft last night. Of course, Tennessee Titans take Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, at number 1. Jacksonville, as we discussed, took Travis Hunter. Number 3, the New York Giants drafted Abdul Carter. 4, Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. Number 5, Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan, went to the Cleveland Browns. And at number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders, they selected Ashton Genty. The Jets at number 7 took Armand Membu out of Missouri. At number 8, a little earlier than I thought, but the Carolina Panthers selected Ted McMillan, receiver out of Arizona. And when he was drafted, at first it was immediate, just okay. I felt like you kind of took a flyer. You took him a lot earlier than I would have. And to be honest, I thought Matthew Golden was probably going to be the first receiver taken. But Ted McMillan, he's a big body. You drafted Xavier Legette last year to help out Bryce Young. And I do think that, one, I thought they were probably going to go offensive line in that situation because of, just Bryce needs some protection. I didn't necessarily think that he needed more weapons that were going to help him out. I actually thought that if you kept him upright, he could figure things out. But they ended up taking Ted McMillan, receiver out of Arizona. Number 9, John's New Orleans Saints. They end up taking Kelvin Banks. And John, just your reaction to Kelvin Banks. And we had Conrad's boy Chris call in this morning, and he was all dejected of, we should have got a quarterback. He even brought up Dylan Gabriel. I don't understand where he was going to be in the conversation.
You can't be Conrad's boy if you both have been shirtless in the same section of a football game.
No, it wasn't the same section.
Thank you, Saber.
We weren't in the same section.
You've never been to the shirtless pavilion or whatever it is?
I was there.
Okay,
he was on the edge.
He's been shirtless there. So, okay, again, y'all, I don't know why you keep breaking your back to try to, make sure you're not apart. I mean, you don't need to go broke back like that. But I'm perfectly okay with the pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny because I honestly, Chris called in some time ago and I told him that this is what they should do. Now, that in that same conversation, I said I felt the Saints needed to go D-line and not O-line. They took an O-lineman with their first-round pick last year. The Saints are old and expensive on the D-line. Yes, you got Chase Young, and looks like he's working out.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably one of the younger heads of there. But Cam Jordan ain't getting any younger. There's several players that are not getting any younger. So if all the edge and D linemen that were available, I would have preferred that, but you didn't need to take a quarterback here because yes, your quarterback situation is dire, but if you're going to be handcuffed to someone for at least the next 4 years, if not up to 7 years, go and get someone you absolutely want as opposed to someone that, it's a quarterback here. We kind of need a quarterback. Might as well do it. This isn't last call at the bar. It's like, come on, let's go. Like, no,
right.
Like you're at a heaven on earth massage parlor in rush hour 2. Like you should be able to choose the one that you want, and don't just settle for something, man. Come on.
Yeah, and I thought Kelvin Banks was.
He's a great
great pickup.
That's it. After doing the mock draft yesterday, and they're hearing Cole and Greg's feel like, I think Armand Membu's better. I think Campbell's better. I think, and they have him kind of like the last of the first round. I was like, oh, okay. So in the draft, I was like, okay. I'm cool with it, but hearing my boys say the other ones were better when they were right there. Okay, that was a little sad, but no, the wealth of quarterback talent that will be available next year, in theory, just seems absolutely phenomenal when you've got such potential. So, granted, there's a lot of question marks out there, but of all the ones that could be coming out, you're looking at an Arch Manning, Drew Aller, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Nico Iamaleava, Cade Klubnik, Sam Levitt, John Mateer, Carson Beck, Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson. Like, those are people that I'm not saying all of them will be first-round picks, but that's at least, like, okay, you have options as opposed to, obviously, Cam Ward, the best quarterback, has been taken. So do you want to, quote-unquote, settle for Shador, settle for Jalen Milroe, settle for Jackson Dart? No.
Right.
Build the team around them and then go out and pick the perfect quarterback instead of settling for someone.
Absolutely. And the Saints, they end up taking Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle from Texas. Number 10, the Chicago Bears. In a surprise to me, they take tight end out of Michigan, Colston Loveland. And on the grand scheme of it, this is where I thought, okay, if they were going to go tight end, I thought Tyler Warren would be the guy. And, no disrespect to Colston Loveland, but we talked about it this morning, Conrad, the versatility that Tyler Warren that he is, I thought he would be a better fit in what the Chicago Bears, if they were going to go tight end.
Well, and my thing with Loveland is I guess he seems more of, because you already have Cole Kmet there in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me more of a Cole Kmet kind of tight end, whereas Tyler Warren's more of a versatile guy. He can also block for you, but what you can do moving him around on the offense, that's where the surprise came for me, because it's like, all right, you already have, I guess, your kind of traditional tight end in Cole Kmet, so why would you go and get another guy that's essentially just a very similar model of him, like a more talented version of him? But yeah, that definitely surprised me with Tyler Warren not being the guy. But hey, I mean, again, he's a big body guy, 6'6", about 250, had a great career there at Michigan. So, I mean, he's certainly going to have some success. I've seen him compared to Sam Laporta, and we saw, obviously, what he was able to do in Detroit the last couple of years with Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator, who's now the head coach there in Chicago. So, look, this is one of those where I'm going to trust the Bears. I'm going to trust they know what they're doing, but a little bit surprising, and I think for us, we would have gone Tyler Warren, but again, to each his own, right? I mean, it's not like you reached for Colston Loveland, right? He was still going to be a first-round guy. It's just kind of a, which side of the coin did you want? And they went Loveland.
Absolutely. And number 11, the San Francisco 49ers take Mykel Williams out of Georgia. And at 12, the Dallas Cowboys beef up the offensive line by taking Alabama guard Tyler Booker, who the first Alabama player and to a 17-year streak of Alabama players in the first round. Hey, it
just means more.
Hey, sometimes it sells itself. It sells itself. There's a direct correlation of the success on the football field in the college level that transpires, transitions over to the NFL as well. 13, the Miami Dolphins take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Indianapolis Colts at 14 select Tyler Warren, Penn State tight end. The AFC South just continues to get a little bit tougher for the Titans. At 15, the Atlanta Falcons take Jalen Walker, defensive edge out there in Georgia, keeps him in the backyard. At 16, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss, goes to the Arizona Cardinals. At 17, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, which I do think, one, if the Trey Hendrickson thing doesn't work out, or if he's just basically on a rented year, to have him and Shamar Stewart on the same defensive line, you definitely address the need.
I would expect I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you're the Bengals, you just use every pick on your defense because first off, your defense was horrible last year. And second, like you're saying, the Trey Hendrickson thing, you've lost a lot of guys on that side of the ball because you just paid, you're paying over $100 million a year for Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins now.
Yeah.
I think that's a great pick. That's exactly what you needed to do, and just keep adding to that defense if you're the Bengals.
Absolutely. At 18, the Seattle Seahawks select guard from North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. At 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is where we saw Jahad Campbell slated in a lot of mock drafts, but they go offensive side of the ball and draft receiver from Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. And
I think that this is a guy that could be a steal of the draft.
Excuse me. I agree with you. One, you're not asking him to be the number one guy. And, with the question marks you had about him when he was at Ohio State is, can he be a take over the game guy? Like you saw the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, the Garrett Wilsons, Chris Olaves. But I think that this is a huge pickup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because, one, you still got Chris Godwin. You got Mike Evans, who's getting older, but you add Emeka Egbuka, who is going to be a solid number 3 in that system. If I'm Baker Mayfield, it's, I love Bucky Irvin in the backfield, but if we want to go air raid this thing out, we got some ammo.
Yeah, no, I think this right here, right now, at least on paper, it's hard for me not to think that the Bucs are the best team in the NFC South right now. And what we saw, Baker had the best year of his career last year, and now you're just giving him more weapons to go alongside that. And you mentioned, the rise of Bucky Irving, who's kind of like low key one of the better running backs in the NFL now. And you mentioned what else they have at wide receiver. That is a lethal offense right there. And I think, and Emeka Egbuka, again, a guy that he lived in the shadow, unfortunately, this year of Jeremiah Smith, because this is a guy that's been there for so long and he's been so solid and so consistent. This is one of those guys that immediately comes in. He's a starter for you. You have no questions about him, and he's just going to go out there and handle his business.
Yep, he's consistent. That's one word we can describe Emeka Egbuka is consistent. Coming in at number 20, the Denver Broncos select Jahdae Barron, cornerback from Texas. At 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Shedeur Sanders, right?
Nope.
Oh.
Not him. Not Jalen Milroe. They go the defensive side of the ball and select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. I think we'll be discussing this Pittsburgh Steelers pick later on through McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Coming in at number 22, the Los Angeles Chargers select Amarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. At 23, the Packers select Matthew Golden, receiver from Texas. At 24, the Minnesota Vikings select Donovan Jackson, guard from Ohio State. At 25, in a trade with the Houston Texans, the New York Giants select quarterback from Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, who, I mean, in the past 2 to 3 weeks was just catching a lot of heat. And for the Giants, you got Russ, you got Jameis Winston. They're only getting older, but you need to select for the future. And, this could have been a spot where they got Shedeur Sanders. But Jackson Dart started to make waves, and Brian Daboll and the crew, they made a decision, traded up to get with Houston to get Jackson Dart, and that could be interesting moving forward.
I love this pick. I thought this was, over the last couple of weeks, I had come around on the fact that, I view Jackson Dart as the second best quarterback in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the Jalen Milroe, excitement of, well, he's kind of like a lottery ticket. And I get why some teams could be enamored with that. I think Shedeur Sanders is a really good player too, right? I don't mean this as a knock on him necessarily. It's just, I think what you saw from Jackson Dart and how he got better over his career there at Ole Miss, and a guy that can just go in and let's be honest, right? He's not going to cause distractions for you, and not saying that Shedeur would necessarily do that either, but I think he fits what Brian Daboll wants to do. He said he reminds him a little bit of Josh Allen and what he had there in Buffalo, because if you remember, Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator that kind of got Josh Allen's career on the hot track. And if he sees that in Jackson Dart, look, again, you were able to trade back up. You got the best defensive player in the draft early on in Abdul Carter. You were able to move back up, not waste a lot of draft capital, and get your guy for the future. And you're setting him up to be able to sit this year behind Russ or Jameis or whatever you do there. I thought that was an excellent pick by the Giants. I think Jackson Dart's going to be good.
Absolutely. And rounding out the first round, 26, the Atlanta Falcons select James Pierce after trade with the Los Angeles Rams, edge out of Tennessee. 27, the Baltimore Ravens select Malachi Stark, safety from Georgia.
Great pick.
Absolutely. Detroit Lions at 28 select Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Washington Commanders select Josh Connerly, Jr., tackle from Oregon. At 30, the Buffalo Bills select Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback from Kentucky. And in 31 and 32, at first it was the Kansas City Chiefs at 31, but they trade with the Philadelphia Eagles to just flip-flop 31 and 32. And at 31, another Alabama Crimson Tide player selected. That would be linebacker Jahad Campbell is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And at 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. So that was round one of the NFL draft. We'll continue the coverage as we have Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN, coming on the other side. So keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 724 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saber here with you, filling in for the guys this morning. Let's go to the Higginbotham hotline as we talk some NFL draft. And of course, I'm pretty excited because we're talking to a guy that knows this team inside out. That would be the Tennessee Titans. Let's talk to Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN. And Teron, you were there. Tell me about just the excitement and what to expect with Cam Ward being the number one overall pick for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I tell you what, I haven't seen Brian Callahan that happy since he was hired. So that lets you know that even Mike Bogdanski was typically stoic. You know, he smiled a few times as he talked about Cam, and he just really pushed about the leadership and just the way he enamored them when they met with him at the combine and continued through the process. So there's a lot of excitement. I think everybody is really pleased and happy that they got their guy.
We lost Teron.
We'll try
right
to
there.
reconnect with Teron Davenport. They're having a little bit of connection issues. But okay, so talking about Cam Ward, for you, Damian, going through the draft process, I don't know if you always expected it to be Cam Ward. Was there any consideration in your mind, you think, of another quarterback at that spot for number one for the Titans, or do you think it was always going to be Cam Ward?
No, I thought it was always going to be Cam. I think when you look at just the talent that he is, he was probably the only quote unquote can't miss quarterback in this draft.
Yeah.
I think everything that he's accomplished when he was in Incarnate Word, Washington State, Miami, all the numbers spoke for themselves in the play that he had. And I think for the Titans, we had to suffer through Will Levis the past couple of years. Mason Rudolph coming in. I think that for us as a unit, we needed to see something. And I think the spark that Cam Ward is, I think that I thought he was going to be the guy the whole time. And we're back with Teron Davenport. And Teron, again, just going back, I think we had some connection issues. Just talk about the excitement and everything for the Tennessee Titans and selecting Cam Ward.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, Brian Callahan was as happy as I've seen him in quite some time. I think when you look at Mike Borgonzi and the way he spoke and just glowingly spoke of Cam, I mean, that says a lot because for the most part, Borgonzi has been very stoic in his approach. He cracked a smile a few times. So I'll let you know, I mean, look, they understand that they gave up an opportunity to get a lot of picks, but they really believe Cam is the guy. And in meeting him and then in just, being able to continue to talk with him through the process, it just further cemented that marriage, and they believe that he's the one and he's going to help turn him around, especially, with the leadership that he brings.
So, Teron, was there ever consideration, and maybe it was just early on in the process, but with this number one overall pick, was there ever a belief that the Titans might have gone Shadur Sanders or a Jackson Dart or even a Jalen Milroe, one of these other quarterbacks over Cam Ward? Or is it your belief that it was essentially always going to be Cam Ward if the Titans held on to that number one pick?
No, I mean, when the process started, there definitely was interest in Shadur Sanders. They just had to continue to carry it out. And I think really everything shifted at the combine. Like when they met, they had an idea. They liked, what Cam was able to do. But then when they met him at the combine, that's really when things just kind of took off from there. So it wasn't strong consideration like, hey, he's the guy in Shadur, but there were thoughts, there was interest, and understanding that he matched the scheme, and et cetera, et cetera. But as far as Milroe or Jackson Dart, no, not at all.
Here with Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN, and kind of taking a look at the AFC South as a whole, it seemed like they pretty much did a good job in the first round with, Jacksonville trading up to get Travis Hunter. You see Tyler Warren going to the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, the Houston Texans made a trade, but just kind of what grade would you give the AFC South as a whole in round one?
Yeah, I think it gets a B grade. I mean, you look at what the Jaguars did. I mean, they paid a lot, but it's buy one, get one free, right? They needed a number 2 corner and they needed a number 2 receiver, and they got that in one pick. So that's going to be cool to watch that carry out. And, Travis Hunter, he loves to fish. Well, hey, man, you went to a really good spot for that. I think you look at Tyler Warren, and, I mean, I've maintained all along that he reminded me so much of Dallas Clark. And so now he's there playing where Dallas Clark did. So I think that's a good match, a big guy, and that'll help out their quarterback, whoever that should be. And then, Houston, they made the trade, but guess what? Like, they could come away with, a Luther Burden. They could come away with a Jalen Higgins, a Jaden Higgins, a Jalen Noel. There's going to be options for them. And obviously, the Titans, they got their franchise quarterback. So I would say all four teams did well.
All right, Duran. So you're going to have today the Titans in the second round. They have the third pick of the second round. So on the board early tonight. Where would you expect the Titans to go now after they got their franchise quarterback? Do you continue to bolster that? Do you help them on the offensive line? Maybe go get a receiver, or do you start to address the defensive side of the ball if you're the Titans?
Well, there's interest in Luther Burden, but there's some, I don't want to say off the field things, but there's some personality things that they're really digging into and they're not sure about. So he's definitely in the mix, but Jaden Higgins as well. But I think they go edge. And I think you look at some of the guys that are available. I know JTT from Ohio State is one that could be a possibility with a trade back. You got Landon Jackson, who they've zoomed with, Kyle Kennard, who they've shown interest in. Obviously, Donovan Ezeraku as well. Like, there's a lot of options that they could do pass rusher wise. And I think that might be the start of that run on pass rushers right there at 35.
All right, Teron, and listen, I'm a Titans fan, and we had to, I'll be admitted, we had to suffer with Will Levis. But where do the Titans go with Will Levis from this point forward?
I don't see why they have to move on from him. He's on a rookie deal, a second round pick rookie deal at that. So they keep him around. He doesn't come across as a guy that would cause a lot of issues or anything like that, So I think if they don't get a good compensation to trade him, I think they keep him. And, he's not bad to have as your backup to battle with, Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. So I think he stays unless they are able to get a good pick for him.
Teron Davenport covers the Tennessee Titans for ESPN, joining us here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, so just overall from the first round, what was the biggest surprise in your eyes? What was the moment last night that made you go, man, I did not see that coming, whether it was a player that wasn't selected, a trade, somebody that was selected maybe a little higher than you thought? What was your biggest surprise last night?
Probably Booker to the or who did it? Yeah,
Cowboys?
They took Booker, right? Yeah, Cowboys.
Yeah.
Probably that one because I thought Matthew Golden would be a guy. But I mean, look, you mentioned Matthew Golden. I'll just say him, how far he dropped overall, period. I thought that he was going to be a top 20, top 15 pick. And here he didn't go until the, late 20s. So that one really surprised me.
All right, Teron, before we get you out of here, what name do you think that we hear today that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about, or just a guy that you think that could be a pretty good starter or a pretty exciting guy in day two?
That's a good question. I'm going to go back to JTT, out of Ohio State. I think he's going to be an impact pass rusher for somebody, just a complete total player. So I'll go with him. I think you also, you got to look at, some of these receivers, right? And I think Jalen Noel is the guy out of Iowa State that does everything. And I think he's going to go in and be impactful for somebody as well.
All right, Teron, man, we appreciate you hopping in with us this morning. I know it's an early get up, and you got to be locked and loaded for the next couple of days.
No, it's all good, man. It's what we do, man.
Absolutely. Teron Davenport, who covers the Tennessee Titans for the ESPN. On the Higginbotham Hotline, you deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning as we recap what he talked about and take a peek at that Will Levis situation, because I think we may be on the opposite ends of that.
What situation? No. What are you talking about?
We may be on the opposite.
Don't get rid of the jersey yet, Damien.
Keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:38 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saybear here with you. Got a chance to talk to Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN, a segment ago, and I asked a question about Will Levis, and it was very enlightening how he took the high road. And he brought up a great point. Listen, he's on a rookie deal, second round rookie deal at that. You don't necessarily have to come up off of him. And I think
you agree that was a great point.
It was something I didn't think about. I was just like, get him out of here. Like, just go. Like,
yeah, well, what do you mean took the high road? He's a reporter. He's supposed to be impartial.
Yeah,
you're the semi-fan.
That's why he's great at his job.
Oh, okay.
That's why he's great at his job. Me as a fan, I was like, nope, I've seen enough. Just go ahead and just rip the cord.
Who else do y'all have? Who would be his, without Cam Ward, who's Will Levis' backup?
Tim Boyle and Brandon Allen.
So the best one there. Yeah, what are you talking about? Why would you get rid of a starting NFL QB?
No, Tim Boyle has been in the league for 8-9 years as a quality backup. There's a reason why he keeps a job, and he ain't playing in the UFL. But all I'm saying, he brought up a great point. And again, like I gave Will Levis every ounce. I was just like, hey, big dog, I am willing to put everything that happened in Kentucky behind me if you could just be consistent. I wouldn't even expect him to be great. I just wanted him to be consistent. And he was consistent in throwing the ball to the other team. But he brought up a great point. You know, of course, with drafting Cam Ward at number 1, you're solidifying that, yeah, the Will Levis experiment is over. And we're going to.
Now he begins the Mac Jones part of his career.
Yeah. And Mac Jones is 2-0 against the Titans. At least he was last year as the Jacksonville Jaguar quarterback. So, you know, and listen, no matter how I feel personally about it, I actually was shocked that he said that, because it just, I was seeing red. Like,
mentally, you're so done with him.
Right. And the fact that he brought up a great point of, listen, man, he ain't like he eating up a lot of cap space. It's
the fact that you had to accept it was a good point. And then,
right.
Even though it makes you mad, you're like, yeah, I
right.
guess he's right.
It's like he beat me up and then helped me, like, dusted me off. It's like, hey, maybe next time, buddy. Like, it's like, hey, you're right. You're right. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. But I just remember being at the Cincinnati Bengals and Tennessee Titans game last year, and we were up 14-3. Everybody's rocking. Will Levis throws a pick that it made absolutely no sense. Like, everybody in the stadium was watching Tyler Boyd run down the field wide open, and he throws it in the middle of like 3 Cincinnati defenders. And it's like, what? And then Mason Rudolph comes in the game, and everybody starts cheering. And we are driving down the field, and Mason Rudolph throws an interception, and you just see the crowd just start to empty. And they end up, we end up losing the ball game. But we're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, not only are we bad, like, there's no coming back from this. And at that point, I was like, if we're going to get the number 1 overall pick, this is when Cam Ward was starting to ascend. It's like, let's get him. Shador was putting up numbers. And then, like, to Teron's point, during the whole draft process, you started to realize, okay, yeah, Cam Ward is taking this number 1 spot. Yeah. And sorry, Will Levis, like, this has got to happen. And again, he was a can't miss guy. We drafted him number 1 overall, which I'm cool with. And I'll stand true to this. Our Super Bowl odds have increased. Now, it may still be under 2%, but by God, we're a lot closer to 2 than we are 1 in this situation.
What I'm looking at right now, you still have the worst odds to win the Super Bowl. But the good news is
some value there.
You are tied with the Giants for the worst odds to win the Super Bowl.
And they have a Super Bowl winning quarterback on their roster.
The Browns have double the odds to win the Super Bowl that the Titans have. Double.
That's because Nick Chubb is coming back.
Right.
And they just re-signed Myles Garrett. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're trending upward.
Okay, so for today, what do you want to see from the Titans? Because I know for you, he mentioned Tuamola, the JT Tuamola, the guy from Ohio State. Excellent player.
Yeah.
Would be a worthy selection there. I feel like for you, and for me too, because we both like off. Want exciting. Yeah, right. I feel like you would probably want to go wide receiver to have somebody to go with Calvin Ridley for Cam Ward.
Luther Burden, if he's still there.
You have no concern. See, and my thing with him is kind of what Teron said. Like, I think he falls in the camp of, from what I understand, the concerns are maybe about how committed he is to football in
Yeah.
the sense of, do you really love it? Are you going to be a guy that's going to come here and work your ass off? Or are you the kind of guy that's just going to coast on your natural talent?
Yeah. And I think when I look at that receiver room, got Calvin Ridley, we added Tyler Lockett the other day, got Van Jefferson in free agency, that he can develop with those guys that are in there, because Calvin Ridley's, I think he'll be 30 this year. Tyler Lockett, he's played 11, 12 years.
Yeah, he's
in the
up there.
league.
He's up there.
And I mean, Van Jefferson's good, but he's not, somebody I'm just worried about. So I think that you can find a way to get on the field and make impact plays. And I think, the development with him and Cam Ward, both of them being rookies, being young, I would like to see Luther Burden in that spot.
What were the Conrad? You had the odds up. What were the? You said the Titans had tied with the worst. What were they?
They would be plus 20,000.
Let's go.
Okay. When they ended the season last year, they were plus 15,000. So they have in fact gotten worse.
That's insane.
Okay.
That's absolutely insane.
Well, they got closer to a Super Bowl, but their odds have gotten worse.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're not, listen, that's money. That's Vegas. Vegas doesn't know anything.
You just literally said the odds got better, and no, they've gotten worse.
Vegas doesn't know.
Okay.
I'll tell you what Vegas does know. Yesterday, going into the draft, if you wanted to bet on Jackson Dart's draft position, it was 25.5. You think Vegas doesn't know what they're doing?
It's rigged, man.
It's witchcraft is what it is, but they know what they're doing.
No, that is insane. That is insane. But no, like when I look at just overall the first round, the only real surprise that came to me was Colston Loveland going before Tyler Warren. I think that especially, well, no, I take that back. The Jets taking offensive line, I thought they were going to get Tyler Warren in that spot, because I thought Tyler Warren was going to be a top 10 pick. I really did, just because of his versatility and everything that he's done. He's just a great football player. But them going Armand Membu was great indeed as well, because you got to find some way to protect Justin Fields if he is going to be the $40 million guy that you got.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I mean, I get it. If you're the Jets, right, you're in a position where you just you probably just took whoever was at the top of your big board, right? Because you're in you just want to take the best available talent, because you have so many holes to fill in your roster there. So yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a surprise. I think for me, I was surprised to see the Falcons trade back in for a defensive player, but you could clearly tell they had an agenda going into the draft, which is we need to bolster the front of our defense, and they did that with Jalen Walker and James Pierce. So I think that was a great move. I know some people were upset with what they had to give up, because you now don't have a first-round pick next year. But if you viewed these guys as, hey, we don't know who would be available for us at these positions next year, let's just go ahead and get our guy right now and get a head start on rebuilding this defense there in Atlanta. And again, I know we do this every year, it feels like, with the Falcons. Falcons are interesting. With Michael Penix taking over, what can he truly become? But you have an elite wide receiver. It looks like blooming in Drake London. You have an elite running back.
Yeah.
I'm still a believer in Kyle Pitts and what you can get out of him. And now if you're building this back, I know Saber's looking at me. He has too much talent to not work.
Okay, Anthony Richardson.
I can't argue against that. Fair.
But I don't think Kyle Pitts was a project, though. Like, I think you drafted him that early.
They just didn't know what to do with him.
Right.
But now it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, what is the deal?
Okay, Jamarcus Russell.
See, I'm not ready to put Kyle Pitts in that category yet.
He has been a massive disappointment, though.
Yeah.
Speaking from somebody that's had him on his fantasy team like 3 times in his career so far.
But also, too, he hadn't had consistency at quarterback either.
He hasn't.
That's even with Marcus Mariota included.
He hasn't.
He hasn't. Because
It's especially included with Marcus, but all right.
But I just...
Hey,
I think
baby
him and
steps.
Micah-
The fact he even acknowledged it in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah, absolutely.
Correct,
Yeah, that Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota project was that was a failed experiment. I thought it was going to be a lot better.
I saw him. He was having a big time at a hockey game the other night with Jaden Daniels and Sam Hartman.
Listen,
Bonding.
yeah.
Well, is he bringing him drinks or something? Or
No, he was
working for the
it's
stadium now?
No, it's called team chemistry. It's a quarterback room. They're united. Hey, he's one play away. He's one play away. And you saw what he did.
Are we confident he's the second guy and not the third guy?
Did you not see what he did when he stepped in for Jaden Daniels last year?
Yeah, he was good. He was solid.
Cooking.
It's okay, Damon. You can let it go.
Yeah, I mean, he's old now. Like I'm team Cam Ward, dog. Like, yeah. He's.
We're done with
Why
that.
haven't you got his jersey yet?
I don't know what number he's going to be just yet.
Oh, okay.
Now, if he is number 1, that's even
I
better.
was about to say, is he not going to be number 1?
Warren Moon said he would probably give it to him.
He would let him do that.
Yeah, he would let him have it. But
What was he? Was he number 1 at Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He's number 1.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 1 on the field, number 1 in our hearts.
Okay.
We? So to be like Uncle Phil, but we?
Titans fans. 205-834-9450. Get to your text message, your calls, just talking about the NFL draft. On the other side, keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
What's the matter? I'm not trying to get you to identify. I know you don't know Three Doors Down. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
I knew
'Cause
that.
I was about to,
Don't tell me you thought this was Pearl Jam.
no, I was about to say Creed.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine. No, it's a song title that I was trying to catch your eye with.
What's the title? What was the title? You gotta do us like that, man.
Man, that's fitting.
It is what it is. Hey, can't spell Levis without one L. We took 12 of those, but it is what it is. Listen, it's Team Cam Ward,
If you
man.
include his first name, there's 3 L's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Say no more. You know,
Speaking of which, you should go to the phones.
hey, listen. You know what you can't? Hey, you know what you can't spell Ward with? You can't spell Ward without a dub, baby. The W, and that's where we're gonna get a plenty of them. Tennessee Titans, we back, baby. Put the word back. Hey, put the word up. Put the word out. We back up. AFC South is ours.
Would have been better if you got it right the first time, but
It happens.
okay.
It happens.
I'm pretty sure in the break you just said that second place in the AFC South was attainable, not so much
What
first
was the key
place.
phrase in that? In the break, we keep stuff off the air, dog. Don't bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring it
Well,
up.
I know. I was just confused because you
No.
were saying a completely different thing than you said 2 minutes ago, and I didn't know if we
No,
needed.
and that was in secrecy. That was in privacy. I thought we were gonna keep that in the locker room, big homie.
No, not that one. Not that one.
Welcome back into almost like morning jogs. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Conrad, Damian, John, we're having some fun here, guys.
Are we having fun anymore?
I am. I don't know about y'all. We drafted Cam Ward. I'm pretty excited.
I was more so asking for Damien's sake.
Yeah.
I don't know how much fun he's
Y'all ain't
having.
gonna talk me off the ledge, man. I'm not a loser.
Okay.
We're
Well, no,
winners,
you're
baby.
not, but
We're winners, baby.
loser by association. Is that what we
Right,
call it?
yeah.
Is that what we call it?
Let's go to the phone lines. Who we got? 205-834-9450.
Let's see. Who do we have? Welcome in.
You know who it is. It's your boy Chris back at you. More so towards calling towards something poignant that Saber brought up about the Saints, saying that they shouldn't really settle just because something's the best is available. Well, I look at it like this, Saber. If you're the guy that's in the club that's trying to get the girl that night and to leave home with you, and you've clearly been past seven drafts, 6, 7 drafts, you've been missing out on a shot and not sealing a deal, you better off just settling with a slump buster at this point, because the definition of insanity is to constantly do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And you need to get return back on those investments that you constantly just pretty much invested in. And you got Marcus Davenport gone. Peyton Turner, is he really turning out what you expect? Hardly. Brian Baresi, that's a good pick. It's turned out okay-ish, I guess. Trevor Penning. Can you say it was really working out that way? Don't know. We'll see more in due time. Darius Pete, been there, been done that. Eric McCoy got injured majority of last year. And Talise Fuaga. What do you think, guys?
I don't know. I don't know where we were going.
I asked Saber early.
Well, I guess to me, and thanks for the call, Chris. Thanks for especially listening for the song coming in. I felt that the Saints didn't need a quarterback. If you've been rejected all them times like that, there's no point in going for the slump buster. No, you call it a night, go home, galvanize, and come back out fresh. You don't just take a victory just to have that. That's a Titans mentality. You know, he sounds like he wants to be a Falcons fan as opposed to a Saints fan. I mean, that's just, I don't know, man. Damien, come get your boy, man.
No.
Twice in one morning.
Yeah. And twice too much. More Mac and Cube next. Welcome back in hour number 2 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saber here with you, filling in for the guys. As we know, spring weather in Alabama can be really unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of a Trane, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand. And right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Trane home comfort systems. Find out more at Trane.com. Cole Cubelic, who is the leader here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, got a chance to speak with Lance Zierlein as he discussed the NFL draft. Let's hear what Lance had to say with our boy Cole right now.
Continue talking NFL draft now with Lance Zierlein, who joins us on the Higginbotham hotline of the NFL Network and NFL.com. Quarterback is never too far from the topic of conversation when it comes to the NFL draft, Lance. We know who's going to be off the board at number 1 and the best quarterback in this draft going to be gone. What's next as far as how many quarterbacks come off the board in the first round? And if there's a team that makes a stretch for any of these QBs and maybe moves up early to grab one, what team do you think that would be?
I think it's going to be a team from the second round using their second round draft capital to move up. So that would be the Giants, the Saints, or the Browns. I think that's the most likely scenario. All three desperately need quarterback. And so I think the most likely to take that shot and move up is going to be a team that uses their early second round pick and parlays that into another first round pick. I think that's more than likely going to happen. There's been some whispers about maybe the Rams could move up and look for their quarterback of the future. I do think in a weird way, Jalen Milroe's kind of a crazy wild card selection, but the team who takes him may not be taking him to be an immediate quarterback. They may use him in a more of a Swiss Army knife type capacity. There's a lot of, I know a team that's got a running back grade on him and a high one at that. So it's going to be a really wild draft to see if Sanders goes second or Jackson Dart goes second. This has been one of the most unpredictable drafts that I've ever been a part of. It's predictable in terms of which players, the players who are in this, top 30, but it's unpredictable in terms of how people have them rated. They are all over the board.
Lance Zierlein of NFL.com joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. Do the Steelers have to take a quarterback in the first round?
Well, I don't think they have to. Like, you have to remember, Aaron Rodgers is still out there. Kirk Cousins is still a potential trade piece. They don't have to take one in the first round. See, I'm a firm believer that if you draft quarterback because you feel like you have to because you don't have one, but if you don't have conviction for that player is going to get you fired. You have to remember that. If you draft a quarterback in the first round and you don't develop that quarterback, history tells us that you get fired, whether it's the general manager, the head coach. It's usually a head coach first, then the general manager. Sometimes it's both. So I think one of the worst things you can do is draft a guy because you think you have to have him, but you don't have a grade on him that is even close to, where you end up picking him. The problem with that is they become the guy that you had graded where you had him graded. It's not, or worse. I mean, history tells us usually it's worse. And then, you end up getting fired because you weren't able to develop them. And not only that, they eat up at least 2 years, and in many cases 3 and sometimes 4 years. And God forbid they're average, because then you have to pay them like they're elite. And then they jump, and then they cut into your team's salary cap at an enormous rate after that. So I'm a firm believer in, as long as you possibly can do it, you wait until you can get your hands on somebody that you truly believe in. So, to your question about the Steelers, they're in a tremendous, yes, they have to get a quarterback in this draft. There's no doubt. I just don't know that it has to be in round one, but there's a lot of buzz about Mike Tomlin loving Shedeur Sanders. So we'll see if that's the case.
Lance Zierlein joining us from NFL Network, NFL.com on the Higginbotham hotline, talking NFL draft. I've wanted to have this conversation with you for quite some time because you're part of the Joe Moore Award voting committee and you study that part of the game as much as anybody. I think there is I don't want to say severe, but a pretty big drop-off after the first 2 tackles in this draft. And that's going to be obviously Will Campbell and Simmons. Where are you on Will Campbell and the arm length, as far as people saying that he can't play tackle in the NFL, not going to be, and just sort of the order of these tackles that you believe they come off the board tonight?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm kind of with you. This is, last year was a great year to need tackle because you had, I think, some really good options on the board. This year is a lot trickier. There's a lot of holes with a lot of these guys. And Josh Simmons has a patellar injury that some teams are very concerned about. There's been some scouts who told me there's some work ethic concerns, and there's a real possibility Josh Simmons falls completely out of the first round when you combine the two. I mean, some teams aren't going to have him on the board because of the knee until they're just not sure how that's going to, bounce back, because that can take a little while. So I think he could end up going fourth. I think he will go fourth, and I think he could fall out of the draft. Or somebody could say this guy's just super talented and super athletic and has the body type and the wingspan and everything we love, and we're taking him in the top 15. That's what I mean. It's really hard to predict. With Will Campbell, my dad was a forever offensive line coach, college, pro, and he always told me people who don't put any consideration in arm length don't coach that position on the NFL level, because if you've got a short arm guy who's not perfect with his timing and his ability to utilize his hands and his feet in such a way that he maximizes length and maximizes his opportunity to get hands in first, what's going to happen is guys are going to stab and run him into the pocket. He's just going to get, he's going to have a lot of problems because teams are going to utilize length against them to their advantage for as long as they can possibly exploit it. And I think Jonah Williams, has had some of those issues. Like I told you at the time, I just thought Jonah was a good blocker. So I draft guys who can block. And I think Will Campbell can block. So I don't worry about it as much. I think he can play guard if he needed to. I think Will Campbell has a mentality you love. And I think some of the stuff Will Campbell does, I don't think his hands are super tardy. I just think sometimes he doesn't always have confidence in his hands. So I think it's a matter of coaching and timing, and I think he can work around it. Sub 33 inches is short. That's really short for an NFL tackle. So I do have some concerns. I'd be lying if I didn't. Kelvin Banks, think he does too much vertical setting. I don't think he gets on top. I think he needs to be more commanding. Cole, you probably remember the game he had against Will Anderson as a freshman. It was terrific. I mean, he kept Will Anderson completely at bay as a freshman. And I don't know that he's gotten a lot better in terms of pass pro, but I think there's some things to work on. I think he's got to become a more commanding player, and he's got to be more proactive with his pass sets. I think some of that's correctable. We talked about Simmons. I'm a fan of Armand Membu. I like him. I think, I do think there is some work that needs to be done in pass pro. Really like him in the run game. But it gets to the point I'm mentioning, it's the holes. And I think how it goes, it goes Will Campbell first, Kelvin Banks second, Membu third. Those three guys are going to go in the top 10 more than likely. And then Simmons is the wild card. If you're okay with his medical and you think that he's coachable and all that stuff, I don't see why you wouldn't take him early. Right. But if those other things are a consideration and a concern, then he falls out of the first.
What's the most intriguing part of round 2 in your mind, Lance?
I think how they treat the quarterbacks in some regard. For me, it's how early Mason Taylor goes. I'm just a huge fan of Mason Taylor. I ran into a head coach yesterday on a phone call that thinks he's a first-round talent. I think Mason Taylor is going to have a bigger impact in the NFL than we're talking about. We talk a lot. We spend a lot of time talking about the two Big Ten centers and Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. I think Mason Taylor has a chance to be right there with those guys. I really think highly of him. And I think you're going to see teams kind of covet him early on. But what I'm most interested in is what happens if Walter Nolan falls out of the first? What happens if James Pierce falls out of the first? What happens if Josh Simmons falls out of the first? These are all three guys that have some potential character marks or work ethic marks, whatever the case may be, that could cause them to fall and maybe fall out. What happens once we hit the second round? Is it all sins are forgiven and these are the first guys to come off the board? Because we're talking about guys who are top 15 talents without question. So I'm really interested to see if they do fall out, if any combination, and I think there's no way all three go in the first round. If any combination fall out, I'm interested to see how the NFL treats them once they hit the second round, because we're talking about high-end talent. So I think those early second-round picks are going to potentially have more value, believe it or not, than some of the mid-round first-round picks. And I know that sounds crazy, but we're talking about first half of the first-round talent in those three players that we're talking about. So I think that's really interesting to me, is if teams view the early second round picks as maybe even being more valuable and maybe coveting a chance to get out of the first just so they can get their hands on one of those three players at a discounted rate in the second round.
When you look at a position like running back and the depth that's there, does that change more about where teams won't go early or where they will go late? How does the massive depth at a position like that change this year's draft?
Yeah, I thought about that, and a lot of times I think our inclination is to think you just don't draft a running back or a defense or whatever the deep position is. And so this year it's running back. And, a lot of people will think, well, you just don't draft it. It's deep. Yeah, but Genty is really special, and he's going to go top 5. And then you've got Omarion Hampton, who teams absolutely love from North Carolina. And then Travion Henderson, to me, is the most dynamic of the running backs in terms of 3-down backs beside Ashton Genty. So I think those 3 could go in the first. And so I don't think teams who covet, those 3 players I don't think they'll look at this as, hey, it's a deep draft, let's get one later. I think the second round is going to be full of talent. We may see 4 running backs going to second round. And then after that, Cole, is when I think you say, all right, from third round to fifth round, there's no difference. That's when I think you start looking at, well, it's a deep draft. Let's go get Jarquez Hunter in the 4th or 5th round. Let's go get, Montrell Johnson in the 7th round. Let's go get our hands on Cam Scatterbo in the 4th round. I think that once you get to the 3rd round is where a lot of teams will start maybe saying there's no difference now in these next 8 running backs. We like them all. We're just going to wait until the end and draft one in the 4th or 5th round. So I don't think the first round and maybe the first 60 picks, I don't think teams will shy away from running backs they like. Once you get past that, though, you start saying, all right, this is a clump that's all kind of together. Let's just wait until later. We'll get the best value for our buck later on, and we'll draft another position of need earlier.
Lance, I got one more for you, and that is just because I value your opinion so much, and I want to hear it. Jackson Dart is an NFL quarterback. What are your thoughts? How'd you write him up?
I wrote him up as a good backup to low-end starter. I took a big bite of the Matt Corral apple, and I think there was some non-football. I was telling you right now, I took a chomp, and I liked him a lot. And then, I always look at learning experiences. And look, Matt Corral had some things that were non-football related that kind of sunk him. And I think he was really good inside that scheme. I really liked the way he played. And I think Jackson's kind of similar. Jackson, I was down on the floor of the combine. I wanted to, with all the quarterbacks throwing, and Jackson really has to work to get the ball out. I mean, he really has to work to get the ball out. And, but he's accurate. He throws with accuracy. I just think that Ole Miss offense makes it a lot easier for quarterbacks. I think Trey Harris was a real eye-opener this year. He got vertical and made big plays, but he's so physical after the catch. They throw a lot of those. And look, the job of Ole Miss is to make it as easy as possible on the quarterback and win as many games as possible. I don't know that scheme right now has Jackson Dart with an average arm ready for the NFL game. I want to see him get through a greater number of progressions. I want to see him have to work against disguise coverages. I think I'm not as sold on Jackson Dart as maybe some NFL teams are, like the Giants. I hear really like him. So we'll see. I don't know I'm curious what your opinion is on him, because I like him. I don't love him. I think there's some really good backups in this draft. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of impact starters, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. There is a lengthy portion of his delivery. There are balls that do not seem like they're on time. But, God, I love his toughness. I love the competitor. I've actually been around him, covered him multiple times the last few years. I love the teammate that he is. I think all the intangibles are there. And I think we discount the lack of protection that he had last season, because everybody wants to ooh and ah about the weapons and the offense and the yards, and that's great. But that offensive line wasn't good. And I think that worked against him a little bit. But there are obvious concerns about enough arm and then getting the football out on time. I just wonder, with quarterback desperation, are there going to be teams that look at him and say, it's just going to have to be enough? We're going to have to take a flyer on it and see if he can get where we need him to be.
Well, and there's some people who like his wiring better than Shedeur. I think Shedeur is a tricky one, because there's a lot of Deion stuff that really plays negatively in NFL circles. They don't want meddling Deion. They don't want Deion bad-mouthing the head coach or the GM or, the team. Like that stuff is real with teams I've talked to. Is they think it's a bit of a circus. But I think that the two players that had the best mental makeup for me, well, I think my three top quarterbacks, which are Ward, then Sanders, then Dart, I think they all have good mental makeup. I like everything you said. I completely agree with Dart. I like the way he's wired. I think it's a real confidence and not a fake confidence that, he tries to convince himself. I think it's real. He's got that swagger. Shedeur does too. Shedeur is extremely confident, extremely tough, poised in the pocket. Both Sanders and Dart have good pocket mobility. They can slide around the pocket. Like, Shedeur's not the best once he's on the run, but sliding around the pocket, he's pretty good. But he hangs on to it a long time. Cam Ward hangs on to it a long time. Dart sometimes can hang on to it a while, but not as long as the first two guys did. That's just I think that's just the way of college quarterbacks now. Most of them just hold it and hold it and hold it because they want to play hero ball, and in some cases they're able to. But that isn't going to work in the NFL, man. You have got to get it out. And, you look at Quinn Ewers, he gets the ball out, but to the detriment of the offense because it's just dink and dunk stuff. He's lost his swagger. He's lost the juice. He's not the gunslinger he was when he first came in. So it's a balance between good decision-making and having that willingness to take shots. You have to be willing to take shots if you want to be great. Dart has that shot-taking mentality. All three of the top three quarterbacks do. I just, the 2 and 3, Sanders and Dart, their arms are very average. So when you have average arms, you got to work on time. You got to be accurate. They're both accurate, but working on time is going to be critical. And reading defenses, being able to make smart decisions and understand what you see is also very critical when your arm talent is average to below average. Lance,
are we overlooking some of the blemishes on Cam Ward because of the lack of other quarterbacks? I mean, listen, I like him. I love I had him in the bowl game, talking to his teammates, talking to his coaches about the person he is, the leader he is, especially day one, walking into that facility when you didn't know anybody. It's really impressive. And he's got the arm. He can make the throws, but, I mean, he gets a little sporadic. He's a risk taker. I mean, he thinks he can make a lot of throws. I also think he has big flaws in, like, the very short intermediate throws. He kind of goes Werfel and, tries to shot put them, and I'm just like, why? What are we doing here? Are we just overlooking some of these because there's just nobody else?
There's no talk about him at all. I mean, it's all Shedeur Sanders all the time is what it's been on the national scene. And it's kind of ridiculous because Cam Ward, as a prospect, deserves more conversation. He deserves more evaluation. And everything you said is true. I've got an early second-round grade on Cam Ward. Now, my grade is based on what I would do if they were in any draft. In the 2018 draft that was loaded, the 21 draft, the 20 – it's the same scale. It's the same consideration. In most drafts, I would have him as like an early second-round type talent, but those guys usually get pushed into the first. It's the same grade I had on Bo Nix, but Bo Nix also went to the perfect spot, I think. Cam Ward also rushes, throws. You go watch the Georgia Tech game. Their disguise coverages completely baffled him. He really struggled dealing with the disguises they showed him pre-snap. And ended up causing him to hold on to the ball a long time. He hangs on to it for a long time. He exits out of the back door instead of sliding up into the pocket, which, leads to him going backwards 15 yards before taking a sack or flinging it up in the air. His decision-making can get spotty at times. He completed 39% of his passes in the red zone. Yeah, there are blemishes. Flip side of that is he has a ridiculous gun, can fit it into tight windows, has some Brett Favre mentality to him, both the positive and the negative. He'll win you some plays you shouldn't win. He'll hurt you with some of the decision making. He's not quite as dangerous on the ground as you think he's going to be. He doesn't really look to hurt teams as much with his legs as maybe you'd like to see him do. But he does have blemishes. I think in most drafts he's like an early second round type talent, but he's the best quarterback in this draft. He's got a good, as you mentioned, his mentality, his leadership, his seriousness about ball. It all checks out. So I think Tennessee is saying, look, we've gotten it wrong with Levis. We got it wrong with Malik Willis, who was, let's face it, he was a third-round pick, so that doesn't really count. And are we sure we're going to be – no team likes to think they're going to be in the top 3 drafting all the time. And so, like we saw with the Colts with Anthony Richardson, once you get down in that spot, you feel a lot of pressure to take quarterback. And, if you have any conviction of the quarterback at all. And Tennessee likes them. They like the mental makeup. They like the physical tools. I think that there are blemishes that people don't talk about, but I think it's just because Cam Ward rarely gets talked about anymore because he's been so locked in at number 1 for such a long time now.
Absolutely. Lance, great stuff, man. I'm so glad we got to visit with you. I value your opinion so much. You're the best at doing this, and enjoy the draft, my friend.
Well, good luck on your broadcast, man. I'm excited for you. I'll be going up against you with my NFL digital versus the ESPN digital. I'm excited you get a chance to do it. I did Harry Douglas and Freddie Coleman's show, and Harry said he was going to be doing some stuff with you as well on the broadcast. So that should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be the first time they ever talk about ankle flexibility and keeping hips and shoulders square and pad level. So yeah, it'll be much more of a conversation this year than last.
I think they'll be listening. They won't be doing the talking about that kind of stuff.
Lance, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Cole.
That was our boy Cole Cubelic on with Lance Zierlein talking NFL draft. We'll continue the coverage on the other side. Get to your text messages, your calls, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. 8:25 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, John Saber, Conrad Van Order here with you, filling in for the guys. Got a chance to hear from Lance Zierlein there in the first segment, talking NFL draft and kind of looking forward to day two tonight. Round 2 and 3 tonight, and then 4 through 7. It's the marathon tomorrow. It's kind of one of those things you'll be seeing picks in commercial breaks, and who knows? Do you think we'll see an Auburn player drafted today?
No, because everything. Well, and I'm not just saying that. There in every mock draft, when the people that do the full 7-round mock drafts, the highest rated player, depending on where you look, is either Jarquez or Keandre Lambert-Smith. Jalen McLeod's in that mix too, but those guys are all 4th round grades or higher from what I've seen.
Yeah, and I think of like just the running backs. I'm actually not necessarily surprised because it's not necessarily a position of quote unquote need for a lot of teams. But Dylan Sampson, I'm interested to see where he goes. I think he goes today, running back from Tennessee. When I look at just some of the SEC guys.
So right now, with the running backs.
Yeah.
All right. So best available at running back, Travion Henderson.
Yep.
Quinshawn.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Scattaboo.
Really?
Then Dylan Sampson. He's number 5. So Dylan Sampson would be the 5th best running back available.
Yeah.
Jarquez is the 16th best running back available.
16th?
Yes. So he's behind, let's see, RJ Harvey from UCF, Martinez from Miami, Etienne from Georgia, Woody Marks from USC. He's behind all of those guys.
And Trevor Etienne?
Yes, he is behind Trevor Etienne. And then let's see, Keandre Lambert-Smith is...
He's probably deep down there.
Oh, yeah, I got to go to the next page. Yeah, he is not listed as one of the best 25 wide receivers left on the board right now. So, yeah, I don't think – I think tomorrow will be the day that you get Auburn. He is the 27th best wide receiver available according to ESPN right now.
I'm interested to see where – again, I would love to see Luther Burden in the Titans uniform. Trey Harris is another name from Ole Miss. I really thought last year – not saying he did a disservice to himself by coming back for another year, but I think that, the injury bug hit him early. Mm-hmm. But when you look at just his overall production while he was a receiver at Ole Miss, I never thought that he was one of the, the DK Metcalfs or AJ Browns, but I figured that he would probably be an earlier, I expect him to be gone today. I do expect we'll hear Trey Harris's name today.
But you are still, if Titans go wide receiver, you would go Burden over Trey Harris.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Luther Burden's a better route runner.
I think the fact that
just body size too.
The numbers that he put up this year, I understand they weren't great.
Yeah.
But again, that's a guy that if this was a year ago, right? I mean, he would have been drafted yesterday, no doubt about it. I mean, he might have been a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of guy that you could get in the second round, and a couple of years from now we look back and we go, oh, that was such a good pick because this was a first round talent that, because of some concerns that ended up being nothing, made him fall to the second day.
Yeah, 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls always welcome here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We got some text messages coming in, Conrad.
That we do. We have FJF, who is a Bears fan, who chimes in. He has a few questions. First off, he says, do y'all know why the Eagles and Chiefs flip-flopped at the end of the first round? I mean, I guess the Eagles were worried that they were going to go for Jahad Campbell, but I thought we all figured they were going to go O-line, which they did. It
seems to me more so maybe they thought someone else would jump them.
Hey,
we'll give you this. And so either the Chiefs were fielding offers or making the Eagles think that they were fielding offers that,
hey, just so you know,
you want this? We've got a team on the line for this. Oh, well, we'll give you this. All right, sucker.
Bingo. Yeah, I think you're right with that one, Saber. He also says, as a Bears fan, he said, I agree with y'all about getting the tight end out of Penn State, but the one out of Michigan is pretty good. Yeah. I like Tyler Warren a little more because he reminds me a lot of Brock Bowers. I think that's fair. And we brought it up. Loveland, his comparison would be Laporta, who, I mean, if you're getting either Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta, you're going to be really happy with. I mean, those are two of, I would say, the top 3 tight ends in the NFL right now. And then he says, he also adds in, it sounds like Chris has been in that bar scenario he mentioned a few times in his life. So that is.
Seems like a quest he's had to be on more than once.
Yes. Yes. Jamie says someone's drinking the shroom juice early this morning, talking about Chris and his phone call. Let's see. Somebody asked, Conrad, what is your NFL team? I do not have one.
You're a Titans guy.
I mean,
He knows better. No,
I'm not a Titans guy. My dad is a Titans fan. He grew up when I was growing up. He lived in Nashville, so I did watch the Titans a lot. If I had to pick a team,
It'd be the Titans.
it would be the Dolphins because my favorite player is Tua.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah,
That's
so
fine.
it would be the Dolphins. But once Tua is gone, I'm no longer a Dolphins. I'm a Tua fan, and he just happens to play for the Dolphins for the time being. God rest his brain. All right, somebody from Tennessee chimes in and says, I just want to be healthy. Someone chimes in and say, I believe the worst or most surprising pick was the Panthers taking Tet McMillan so early. Easily could have gotten him later in the first round. And I agree, they could have probably traded back and still gotten him.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have a situation where maybe there were certain teams that weren't trying to trade out. So, because I thought this was interesting, I was talking with our old friend Matthew McLaren last night. After the Cowboys got Booker. And I just said, hey, man, what do you think about this? Are the Cowboys fans happy with this pick? And it was essentially, it was a fine pick, but the Cowboys would have liked to be able to trade back. But he said they didn't get any offers to trade back. So there were teams that were looking to move back in the first round to get some more picks, but other teams weren't trying to move up because typically you do that for a quarterback. And as we saw, a lot of people weren't trying to do that yesterday. Doug chimes in. He says, SEC showed its talent level from top to bottom with first round picks from 9 different teams. You also had 15 of the 32 picks that were taken yesterday from the SEC, which is tied for the most first round picks by a single conference ever, tied with the SEC, as you probably guessed it.
What, Michigan had four guys drafted last night? Or 5?
Michigan, let's see.
Ohio State had 4.
Ohio State had 4.
Michigan had 2.
You had Graham.
2 in the first 15.
Graham, Loveland, and they had Kenneth Grant. They had 3.
3. They had 3
because
first
Will
rounders.
Johnson didn't go in the first round.
Yeah, and that's another guy I thought would be a first rounder.
But then it came out that apparently he has a knee problem that has scared some teams off. So that is why. But that's another guy that, again, second round pick. If the injury thing is fine, talk about an absolute home run hit there. Let's see. Dan, he chimes in. He says, spot on, Conrad. I agree. Jackson Dart all day for the second best quarterback. We will see how that works out in New York. Let's see. Fanboy says for my Falcons to get both James Pierce and Jalen Walker, and hearing we are talking with Jalen Ramsey. Is that what you're trying to say? But he's very excited for what the Falcons did there with James Pierce and Jalen Walker in the first round. Let's see. Some people still commenting on your advertisement that you did for us this morning. People seem to really enjoy those.
Hey, trying to keep the bills paid, man. I'm trying to save marriages out here.
That's right. Cassie says excited for 4 hours of Conrad, Damien, and Saber on Mac and Cube.
Hey,
appreciate that.
Forward ever.
Appreciate that. Let's see. We have John who texted in. Well, I hope you got an answer to this, John. He texted in earlier in the day. He said, what did my Raiders do last night? Well, if you...
The Raiders?
Hopefully you figured it out by now, John. I'm sorry if you've been waiting this whole time, but if you don't know, you should be happy because you got Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
The Boise State running back. So yeah, he is, I think that was an excellent pick.
1,000%.
Pete Carroll's out here teasing it, I guess. I don't know what.
Oh, when they were in the
posts
press
had
conference?
Well, no, he posted yesterday like a couple of times, like, "Hey, Raider Nation, here are a couple of hints as to what we're doing." And first was a GIF of Michael B. Jordan from Sinners. It's like, oh, okay. Then you just have John Cena holding up a belt. It's like, okay. And so people were just kind of trying to figure out this. Oh, okay, it's just Ashton. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that well, good for Ashton. Again, I mean, I think that's a guy that I'm not gonna be surprised if he's offensive rookie of the year. This upcoming year. And again, I think, what Saquon did this past year for him, a guy like a Marion Hampton who got drafted in the first round as well. Like, I'm glad that we are remembering how important the running back position can be and how impactful that can be. Let's see. Somebody chimes in. They say about Shadur not getting drafted. Maybe they didn't want Dion invading the locker room and being a presence over the program. I don't know if I would worry about that as much because, I mean, he's got his hands full in Boulder. I don't think he has time for that.
He's not a Iamaliava. He's not a ball.
No.
Dion's got other stuff. Dion has a talk show, okay? I don't know if y'all knew that or not. Like, he actually has a talk show on TV.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like he's got other stuff to do than worry about whatever.
He got a job.
He
got jobs to do.
He got multiple jobs.
Now, granted, had he gone to, I don't know, the Raiders or, well, not the Raiders, like the Steelers, There's a couple other places that they'd be on the hot seat, like the Giants. Okay,
Right.
maybe next year he'll be in your locker room as a coach.
Let's see. Someone asked, did the NFL not watch the Ole Miss Florida game last year? Dart choked twice in the last few minutes of that game. And he did. That's fair. I think you could also go and look at the film of essentially every player that got drafted and point out a particular game or a couple of series in a game
Right.
where they, didn't play very well. That's not a big surprise. All of these players had warts, right? And that's why Jackson Dart went 25th overall and not number 2 or number 3, right? Because these guys all have question marks surrounding them. Somebody says Shadur Sanders didn't seem confident in that audio y'all played, which we can revisit that here later in the show. But he posted a video last night from his draft room or his whatever, their compound they had there in Texas. And, it was just, hey, this isn't what we expected. This isn't what we thought was going to happen. But we move on. And the best thing you can do if you're Shadur is use this as motivation for whoever does ultimately select you.
Yeah, and also too, man, it takes the pressure off of you. Like you're not going to go in and have to be the franchise guy. Like you're going to be looked at as, hey, just wait your turn, and if you are what we think you could be, then yeah, like just be patient.
No, you are absolutely right about that. So 205-834-9450, you want to get on the courtesy GMC text line here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, you can do that. We'd love to get more of your thoughts on what happened last night in the first round of the NFL draft. What are you looking for today and heading into the weekend for your team in rounds 2 through 7? We also have the Stallions, that game going on tonight over at Protective Stadium as they're taking on the Showboats. Braves back in action. A lot going on in the world of sports. We want to hear from you, 205-834-9450, and we will continue to get to your reaction when we return here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
8:41 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saber. Hold on. So we've got.
Does that not look good?
We've got one of our local stations here.
Sounds kind of messed up, honestly.
They are. It's a tomato watermelon salad.
Well, I'm curious, are they going to cut out the watermelon and put the salad in the body of the watermelon? Is that what we're doing here?
That's blowing my mind, dog. Like that, I got to see the final product because
is that what you're going to eat for your birthday tomorrow?
Maybe not. I'm going to lean on the side of no.
I hear New Orleans is known for their tomato watermelon salad. Isn't that right, Saber?
Yes, they have tomato salads and watermelon salads, and eat the two. I don't know if they combine it. But sure. Feels a certain kind of coach on the field nonsense, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight room guys that I mean, listen, whatever floats your boat, but I'll skip that one. But yeah, we're talking NFL draft and that's what is the world?
You got distracted. I know.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. But 205-834-9450, your text message, your calls, always welcome here on
McElroy. Doesn't look good. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. Like that is.
That's the dressing first.
No, I know, but like I don't want that.
It's just the combination of tomato and watermelon. Like, who thought of this? Like, where do we?
Okay, well,
what happened?
Think of it like this: someone at some point in human history saw a chicken poop out a white rock. Was like, you know what? I'm gonna eat that.
I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that someone bit that bullet for us.
Yeah, man, it's strange, but how do you? Okay, so you look at the second round, and of course, Shedeur Sanders falling out of the first round. Where do you think Shedeur is going?
I will be shocked. So looking at I expect him to go in the first half of the second round today. And there's a couple reasons for that. The popular belief amongst people is still that the Cleveland Browns, who hold the first pick, they also have the fourth pick of the second round, so picks 33 and 36 overall. That would be a landing spot. And you do have the Texans and Titans wedged between them, so you probably feel pretty good that no one's going to take him, unless there's a trade, of course. So that's going to be a popular landing spot. The Saints there, they have the 8th overall pick in the second round. Maybe that's a spot where they feel more comfortable taking a risk on him. But I brought this up earlier, and we were kind of talking about this. This is my if I'm Shedeur Sanders, this would be my ideal situation in the second round. Is at pick 14, you have the Los Angeles Rams. I think that the Los Angeles Rams, that would be a dream scenario for Shedeur Sanders because you have Matthew Stafford back. You know you're going to probably have 1 or 2 more years of him before it's time to move on. So Shedeur can go in somewhere. He can learn under Sean McVay. He can be in what I would say has proven to be one of the better organizations in the NFL here in recent years. And you can just learn. You don't have the expectations of going in there and being the guy immediately. Plus, you're going to be in LA. That's going to help a little bit with the whole Sanders dynamic, right? That's going to sell some jerseys. I think for him, that would be the ultimate scenario. And if you're the LA Rams, knowing what you have coming up in a year or two, you didn't know if Matthew Stafford was even going to come back for this year. I think that's a home run pick if he falls that far to number 14, but I don't think it's any guarantee because, again, you have the Browns are picking twice, the Saints at 8, the Jets at 10, and then you would have the Rams at 14. So some options there, but I would be, if he made it past the Rams at 14, I would be shocked.
Yeah, and where do you think Jalen Milroe is going to be?
That one is interesting, and that's also part of what was so fascinating about the Steelers pick last night is because, and again, this can change, you can trade, but I don't know how many people are aware of this. The Steelers don't have a second-round pick. They don't have one. And so that was where the belief was, oh, okay, yeah, you skip on a quarterback, you go get someone in the 30s, whatever, that's fine. But you don't have that second-round pick. So do you trade back up and go for a guy like Jalen Milroe? Because there were reports coming out of Pittsburgh yesterday from people that cover the team that Jalen Milroe was the highest rated quarterback on the Steelers' big board. Now, I assume that's over Cam Ward in the sense that they knew he was never going to be available, right? So they didn't even evaluate him. But that would tell me that they had him rated higher than Shedeur and Jackson Dart. So maybe that's a team you see trade back. Maybe the Browns are there and they go and they say, we want Jalen Milroe over Shadur. Maybe that's a spot there. But I do know that the Jets have also been mentioned there as well. I think, and I saw this stat. So in the last 3 years, there's only been one quarterback drafted in the second round. And you know who it was. It was your boy. I think you're going to see multiple quarterbacks taken in the second round today. So I could see Jalen Milroe in that same range that I'm talking about for Shadur. I'm not going to be surprised if both of those guys are gone in there.
Think Tyler Shuck?
My thing with him is he's old, right? He's 25 or 26. He's had 3 season-ending injuries already in his college career. He was in the same. Just think about this. When he started his career, do you know who he was the backup to?
Justin Herbert.
Correct.
Justin Herbert.
And in his recruiting class out of high school, he was in the same class as Trevor Lawrence. These are guys that are on their second contracts in the NFL now. So again, not saying he can't be a nice player, and you could look at that as, well, maybe he's more ready to come in and play immediately. But I mean, I could see him in the second round too. I look at him as a third round guy. I look at him, Quinn, and then maybe Dylan Gabriel getting up there in that next group. And those are guys we're talking about maybe later today in the third round, but also, certainly tomorrow if they're still on the board. But yeah, that's where I am. I think you're going to see Milroe and Shadur both go today in the second round.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. Continue with your text messages, your calls on the other side. Keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:51 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saber here with you. Taking a look at the NFL draft. Of course, we got the Birmingham Stallions tonight taking on the Memphis Showboats. Birmingham looking to go 4 in a row after their season opening defeat to the DC Defenders. But look to get back in the winning side of things and continue on winning. Skip Holtz, let the world know that Cookus will be the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Corral a little banged up. Still, I think that Memphis is bad. Memphis is not a good football team.
Yes.
Birmingham should handle their business.
Shouldn't be a problem.
It should not be a problem. That game in Protective Stadium tonight. Want to make sure you get down there to see our Birmingham Stallions, 3-time defending Spring League champions. 205-834-9450. We got some text messages coming in, my brother.
We certainly do. Let's go to somebody going back to the conversation and the great point that Saber made about the first person to watch a chicken poop out a rock and decide to eat it and realize that it was actually an egg. Somebody says, how about the guy that ate the first oyster when he cracked that sea rock open and said, yeah, I think I should eat this? I'm with you on that one. I think oysters are absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
I will not go anywhere near those things. I still, and I understand some people love them. It's like eating a giant booger. Like, you can't convince me that it's not that. I'm sorry. You can't.
It's one way to look at it. I'm not a big fan either.
No, the texture's just awful.
Look at this weird little bug in the sea. Oh, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of them. Oh, okay. I'm gonna peel it, and it's got a line running down the back of this thing called shrimp. You know what? I'm not gonna remove it. But okay, yeah, we still do it. All right,
That's a good
okay, yeah. It's a vein, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Vein. Okay. Right. Because blood comes out of it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
That's a great point.
FJF, he texted in. He says, am I the only one that thinks that John and Conrad sound alike and can't tell them apart? I've heard that so many times. I don't know if you've ever heard that, Saber.
I don't hear it.
I've gotten that a few times. I've had people say that I sound like Greg, too. I don't get either of the. I think
it's weird that we're getting it now that McLaren's gone and we're on separate shows.
Yeah, that is
We
true.
were on the same show and no one ever said it.
It's okay. Like, half the time, when people call into 3-man front, if I answer the phone, they're like, oh, hey, Saber. I'm like, oh, it's not me.
You just expect me to be here all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fine.
That's right. So, okay, well, there you go. All right, let's see. Sam says, excited for the Young Gun show this morning. Appreciate you, man. Kind words there, Sam. Let's see. Someone says, why did Jahad Campbell not shake Coach DeBoer's hand yesterday after he got selected? I didn't see that. I don't know. Because he doesn't like him. Because Coach DeBoer's a bad coach.
Yeah, because it ain't Saban.
Yeah, his coach, yeah.
The Alabama players hate him.
Yeah. Do these draft picks count to DeBoer or to Saban?
That's the narrative. Coach DeBoer's lost the locker room. Jahad Campbell didn't shake his hand after he got picked. He has lost the locker room. Now, I don't know. He probably just got caught up in the moment.
The one thing I don't think we got in at least in the first round of the draft that we normally get is the girlfriend standing out for one reason or another.
Yes.
That is true.
There are reasons like maybe
Will Levis,
where it's like, oh, okay, we got a Catherine Webb situation. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Or it's Russell Wilson and his lady. Or
that picture kills me every year.
Hit the jackpot, man.
Yeah, it's so good.
Or CD Lamb and his girl like, nope, that's mine.
Oh,
nope.
the 2 phones.
Yeah, that's my business, not yours. There was, I can't remember. I don't think it was last year. There was a Saints player where, let's be honest, most of the draft picks are culturally one way and their significant others are culturally another. And the mama kind of pulled her off.
Oh, yeah. I remember
There was a Saints one. But there was another one too. Like she was actually on him, and mom like yanked her off like it was
Isaiah Wilson for the Titans.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
that's what it was. She snatched her up.
I remember that.
But say all that to say we didn't get that so far. Now, granted, most of the ones were in the green room. So that's the one thing about the draft that I always kind of watch. It's like, all right, how is the girlfriend going to be made to look bad one way or the other, or look good? And Levis's case.
I also thought they did a better job of not bringing up the most tragic event in every player's life as they got drafted. They finally started to get away from that. And instead, we had to listen to Mel Kiper explain why every pick was terrible because it wasn't Shedeur Sanders. So
wild.
You trade one thing for the other, I guess.
Come on now. This happened 2 years ago with Nolan Smith. When
That
Nolan
is
Smith
also
dropped,
fair.
when someone drops, It happens.
That is-
so. Let's not forget. Come on.
That is fair. That is fair.
Absolutely. We got another hour to go here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We're filling in for the guys. Let's have some fun in the back half. Keep it locked right here on Jocks 94.5. Oh, man. Welcome back into McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian, Conrad, and John here with you. Having some fun. Oh, boy. The breaks that we have here on this at this station.
Don't worry, I won't. That one won't go on the air.
Appreciate it.
That was just earlier.
Had a great time. But just recapping round one of the NFL draft, looking forward rounds 2 through 7, starting to 2 and 3 tonight, and then 4 through 7 tomorrow. But just kind of looking at the landscape of it all. Of course, Cam Ward going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Change is coming. Just take some time. Just take some time.
Like change for $1? Like what are we talking about?
No. Jersey.
Change of feel when he keeps throwing it to a Travis Hunter?
Somebody texted in this morning, was like, has there ever been a number 1 overall pick throw touchdowns to a number 2 overall pick when the Titans play the Jaguars? It's like, man, they already putting us down. But we up, baby. We up. But just kind of looking at some of the notables. Of course, Alabama having 2 players selected, keeping that 17-year streak Going on with number 12 to the Dallas Cowboys, you had Tyler Booker. And also towards the end of round 1 at 31, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama as well. And then we kind of asked the question, we pretty much know that Jarquez Hunter more than likely is going to be the first Auburn player taken in the draft. But it's kind of one of those things. You look at the running back position, because if you would have told me this, if you would have talked about it last year, I think Quinshon Judkins, when he was at Ole Miss at the time, he probably would have been like a surefire number 1. And then you just see how a year just changes everything, because even last season projected that James Pierce was going to be, the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
But then he ends up falling a little bit later on. Then the Falcons trade up to get him at 26. And when you look at one thing about James Pierce too, with all the hype that was coming into him, coming in for him last season,
he was never going to be able to live up to that. I mean,
right. Like they were putting him up there with, like the Reggie Whites of the world. Not to say that he wasn't great while he was at Tennessee, but there were games where he's not taking the game over.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of a little bit of a slight, but I think him landing in Atlanta alongside Jalen Walker from Georgia, 2 young defensive guys there on the edge for Atlanta. And you brought up a great point offensively. Yeah, if you're building with Michael Penix Jr., you got a budding superstar with Drake London. You got a bona fide superstar in the backfield with Bijan Robinson, and the jury's still out for Kyle Pitts. Offensively, I think defensively is where you needed to attack anyway. And I think, the fact that you got 2 young edge presence there for Atlanta. I mean, the NFC South, you saw Emeka Ibuka go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kelvin Banks Jr. Going to the Saints, and then Carolina drafting Ted McMillan. They hit the pieces that they kind of needed. And in especially for Carolina, if you're going to, you're saying, Bryce Young, we're going to try to get you everything we possibly can. You drafted Xavier Legette last season, and you get Ted McMillan this year. And I think for Ted McMillan, yeah, I thought he'd probably be a little bit later in the first round, but you get him at 8. And you're expecting him to be eventually that number 1 guy. Not to say Xavier Legette is not, capable of being a number 1 guy as well, but
I think I think the expectation is this is your number 1 receiver right now. There's a reason you took him at number 8 and Legette was like number 32 or something last year.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when you look at the NFC South as a whole, that division, it's gettable every year, a different team. And I think the pieces that New Orleans is picking up, and depending on what they do later on in the draft, they could really make a stake. And you look at what Alvin Kamara is, he's getting older, but the production is still there. And just that division as a whole with Tampa Bay, they finally figured out the Baker Mayfield thing. They found a way to, hey, like, we're going to give you as many opportunities as possible with all the offensive weapons you're going to have. And I think that the draft that we got as far as the first round, a lot of teams drafted what they needed to get, and a few of them took the best available.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what you saw a lot of last night. And I think it's also, there are so many players, because I'll go through some of them here in a second. But when you look at what is still available in the draft at this point in time, it's pretty remarkable, some of these names. So this is just going based off ESPN, what they have right now as their best available overall prospects going into round 2 of the draft. At the top, they have Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, who, again, if it wasn't for that knee injury that some people have some concerns about, that's a guy that, he might have been a top 10 pick. Like this dude is every bit as worthy of being the top cornerback taken in the draft as Travis Hunter, in my opinion. Obviously doesn't have the versatility as Travis Hunter, but that guy's there. You have Mike Green from Marshall. He's an edge rusher. I know a lot of people don't watch Marshall. This was a guy that was mocked in the first round for a significant portion of the process, and he falls to the second round. You have Nick Emanwari from South Carolina, the defensive back there. You have Ezraku, the edge rusher from Boston College. Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle from Toledo. So you can see, kind of like we were talking about with Teron Davenport, where he was expecting a run on defensive line and edge rushers here in the second round. You might see that, but you got Travion Henderson. You've got Shadur Sanders. You've got Trey Amos, the former Alabama and then Ole Miss defensive back there. You got Mason Taylor, the tight end from LSU. Shamar Turner, another dude from Texas A&M there up front defensively. Trey Harris and Luther Burden, we've talked about them. We've talked about Quinshon. Like, there are big name players that are still available on the board, and guys that not only you would expect to be impact players, but guys that you could see starting this year and being really, really good players. So there's a lot left on the board for a lot of these teams today. It's going to be very fascinating to see how this plays. And of course, the big storyline again is going to be the quarterback position and what you get from Shedeur, from Jalen Milroe, maybe a Tyler Shuck. Like, is that somebody that finds himself working him way up into round 2 or 3? So there's still a lot of intrigue going on today. And one of the things, if you followed along with what a lot of the experts have said, is once you got out of the top 10 of this year's draft, there was such a breadth of talent of guys that are starters. You had a lot of guys in the top 10 that are elite talents. And then after that, the rest of the first round getting into day 2, there's not a lot of difference between these guys. So the guys that you can be getting today are guys that you very easily could have seen drafted yesterday at number 20, and you're now going to get them at pick 42 or something in the second round. So a lot of value still to be had in round 2 and 3 today.
Absolutely. And taking a look back at round 1, I think the Denver Broncos getting Jahdae Barron and pairing him up opposite of Patrick Surtain is going to be beneficial. When you look at just the AFC West, you're dealing with Mahomes, you're dealing with Herbert, Geno Smith. I give him his flowers. I give him his respect. But when you have those quarterbacks in your division that you're going to have to face, twice a year, I mean, you look at even Bo Nix, like, you're probably feeling like, okay, as long as my defense can keep it manageable, like, we should be okay as far as the offensive side. And then
you got him and Surtain together, like,
exactly. Like, you better have some show enough receivers out there that you really have some trust in, because those guys can cover. But I think that was a great pickup as well. And I look at Shamar Stewart going to the Cincinnati Bengals, and to your point, they probably go full defense the entire draft, because that is definitely where you're going to have to make your money, because you've handcuffed yourselves with the contracts that you gave Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and also Joe Burrow. But I think a lot, again, going back to some of these teams that they hit exactly where they needed to in round 1, and now you're starting to build that developmental depth. And even if you find some diamonds in the rough in later rounds, I think a lot of teams are sitting pretty. Like, I think that when you look at the Indianapolis Colts getting Tyler Warren, that's another piece. And Teron Davenport, who we had in the first hour of the show, you can go and check the podcast there, JocksFM.com, the Jocks mobile app, wherever you get your podcast. He brought up a great point that he puts you in the mind of Dallas Clark. And really and truly, for whoever you have at quarterback and Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, you gave them kind of a great safety net because of how versatile he can be. I mean, hell, we've even seen him throw the ball for Penn State as well, so you could have a few trick plays with him. So I think collectively this first round, besides, a couple trades here and there, everybody kind of did what they needed to do.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think, for me, the standouts, we just talked about what the Falcons had done with Jalen Walker and James Pierce. I think that in terms of teams that I look at and I go, okay, you are significantly better, in my opinion, than you were 24 hours ago. I look at the Falcons as a team like that, where you have two guys that could potentially be stars now on the defensive side of the ball for you. And you just went through what they have on the offensive side of the ball. So I thought the Falcons, again, I know you had to give up your first round pick last year for Pierce, but I think that was a smart move in the sense that you feel a lot better about where you are if you're the Falcons today than you did yesterday morning. I also thought the Giants, what they did, you went and got the best edge rusher in the class with Abdul Carter. That's a dude that you immediately expect to come in and wreck opposing defenses for the next decade for you. And you pair that up with, you got the quarterback you wanted, right? We can argue about who, should have been the second quarterback off the board, who's better. But I think it's very clear that Brian Daboll identified, I want Jackson Dart. That's the guy I want to coach. That's the guy I see being a potential franchise quarterback here in New York, which they're going to need with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston on one-year deals. I loved what the Giants did. They're significantly better defensively, and they have a quarterback that they think is a quarterback of the future. I know Brian Daboll, he did an interview last night. He said Russ is still going to be the starter. So Jackson Dart, it's not going to be a situation where he's expected to start immediately. And I think that's very good for him. And I also think, and this has been a popular trend for the last few years, the Eagles just find ways to have these incredible talents drop to them where they are in the draft. And getting Jahad Campbell at 31, a guy that most popular, I had seen him going to the Falcons at 15, but this was a guy that was regularly a top 20 pick in mock drafts. And to get him at 31, I mean, as if the Eagles needed another stud defender to go with what they already have. I mean, hell, their defense is already essentially 99% Alabama and Georgia players anyways. And now you go and get Jahad Campbell. I thought that was an excellent pickup by the Eagles there. But yeah, there weren't a lot of picks last night where I just went, Really? Like
Right.
there wasn't, because you've had picks in the past. Like I know, the Raiders when they traded up for was it Clelin Ferrell a couple years ago and stuff like that, or when they took Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama,
Yeah.
and it was just like what are you doing? Like, do you have a different draft process than every other program or
Mhm.
every other organization out there? There wasn't one of those picks, at least to me, where I just immediately went, what is that general manager doing? They should be fired right now. So I think, all in all, maybe not the most exciting. You did have a lot of trench picks, a
Right.
lot of offensive linemen off the board early. So I know that's not going to be flashy and grab a lot of headlines, but yeah, I thought a lot of teams addressed the needs that they did. Even the best teams, right? The Chiefs, they needed offensive line help. You got offensive line help. We talked about the Bengals, what they needed. The Bills continuing to shore up that defense that's fallen a little bit over the past couple of years because you know what you have with Josh Allen, obviously. So I think there's a lot of fan bases that are going to be really, really happy. Also, we haven't really talked about this one yet, but I know we both love the Ravens getting Malachi Starks
Yes,
out
sir.
of Georgia. I mean, talk about just a beast of a secondary with him and Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey and some of those other dudes you got up there in Baltimore. That is a very on-brand pick for the Ravens, but just a phenomenal pick.
1,000%. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls on the other side. Also take a look at just, again, it's early, first round, but if we had to pick an offensive and defensive rookie of the year out of the first round, who do we think those guys would be? We'll answer that on the other side. Keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9:16 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, John Saber here with you, breaking down the NFL draft, recapping round one. And I asked during the break, before the break, if we had to make a pick of these first round guys and we potentially would see an offensive or defensive rookie of the year, where would you go? And as easy as it would be for me to pick, the number one overall pick and Cam Ward, because I do think that he will, we will rise from the ashes. But if I had to go offensive side of the ball for rookie of the year, to be honest, because of where he is and the potential playmaking ability that he has, I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer at the receiver position, but I'll take Matthew Golden at Green Bay, because if he does end up becoming that number one guy, because Green Bay's receiving core, they don't necessarily scare you with the Romeo Doubs and Christian Watsons. Like, they've
got a bunch of 2 and 3 receivers.
Right.
Yeah.
And with his speed and everything that he kind of adds to that offense, we could be looking at him being a 1,000-yard guy in year one as a rookie and really kind of helping Jordan Love take that next step and really starting to grow in an already, difficult NFC North, and Green Bay being one of those teams, being competitive at year's end.
Yeah, no. So I'm glad you brought up Matthew Golden, because I thought you were going to say the person I'm about to, and I was going to try to be different. So I was like, I'm going to take Matthew Golden was my backup pick.
I got you.
But no, I agree with everything you just said. I think, and I mean, we even heard it from Teron Davenport. He said that was the biggest surprise of the draft for him was that he fell as far as he did. And I think what he can do in Green Bay, that's the first time the Packers have drafted a first-round wide receiver in 23 years. Aaron Rodgers was begging for it, and they never gave it to him. So they're finally giving that to Jordan Love. I'm very excited to see what that looks like. But my pick, and I mean, this is the easy pick. I think this is who the majority of people would pick, and that's Ashton Jeanty, just because of the situation he's in. The Raiders were one of, if not, I think they actually might have been the worst team running the football last year. And now you're going into a situation where not really going to have a whole lot of competition for touches. The offense should be better having Geno Smith there and bringing in Pete Carroll. We know what Pete Carroll liked to do with Marshawn Lynch. Now, they're different kind of running back.
Yeah.
But we know how much he loved what he had with Marshawn Lynch, even with Kenneth Walker, guys like that, the last couple of years there in Seattle. So I think Ashton Jeanty, if you're looking for the easy early pick for offensive rookie of the year, just because of the volume that I think he's going to get, I would go Ashton Jeanty. This is also going to be a guy, if you play fantasy football.
Oh, yeah.
He's
going to put up the numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, you better be prepared when people are like, man, you're taking a rookie running back in the first round. Yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that is immediately viewed as one of the top running backs in the league. So, yeah, I'd go Jeanty.
All right, we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, which, I mean, we saw a lot of, like you said, we saw a lot of trench guys, a couple edge defenders. But I think that, one, he has the benefit of having one of the better edge rushers on the opposite side of him. And he's drafted early for a reason. I go Abdul Carter on the defensive side because of Kayvon Thibodeau. They ended up getting Burns last year. Like, I think the defensive front for New York, I'm not going to say they're underrated, but I think that they're looked at as more of the focal point of where the Giants have success. It starts up front because of all the issues and stuff they have in the skill position wise. I think their defensive line has kind of been their calling card. With the emergence of Kayvon Thibodeau being an early round draft pick back in the day, a couple years ago as well. But I think Abdul Carter, when he's on, you definitely know he's on the field, and just the versatility that he has of being a guy that can be on the edge. He can be, you can slide him down to a 3 technique every now and then. You can put him off the ball and playing in the box if you want him to. Outside linebacker. He's the total package. It's just he does take. There are some snaps where it's like, okay, where's Abdul Carter? He needs to be a game record, which, again, you're going to have those with every player that you see, essentially. But I do think that what he's able to do and the versatility that he has off of the edge, again, having Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, and if you want to get, freaky with it, you can put him on the same side and put a guard and a tackle in a bind. I think just the versatility that he has with that defensive front that he could, and again, you're going to have to find a way to contain the tush push when Philadelphia comes around. But the Dallas Cowboys revamping their offensive line, and of course what Washington does. But I do think that him individually, he has a chance to really blossom into something where he doesn't have to be, like Myles Garrett from the jump, but he can put up numbers because of the fact that, by week 10 or 11, you're like, oh my gosh, like we already tried to find a game plan for Kayvon. Now we got to figure out how we're going to stop or slow down Abdul Carter.
Yeah, see, I think he's the Ashton Genty of like this side of the conversation, where he's the easy pick, right? Because of how good he is and the situation that he's going to in New York. But yeah, no, I mean, he would be the smart choice. But outside of that, I was thinking, I would probably lean towards Jahdae Barron, and the reason for that is because he's going to go into a situation where the guy opposite him just won Defensive Player of the Year. And Pat Surtain is the best cornerback in the NFL right now. And so you get to go in as a rookie and play opposite of him. So teams are going to throw at you because they want to avoid the other side of the field. Now, that could pave the way for some early growing pains where things don't look good. But if he is as advertised, and I mean, he was elite this year for Texas, that's a guy that can come in. The ball's going to come your way, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities to get interceptions, get past deflections, and really put some good tape out there as a rookie, just because the team's going to try to avoid throwing to Pat Surtain so often. So I think for him, just because of the opportunity, that would be another player that I would look at for potentially Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, his comp is even Cooper DeJean, who, as we saw last year for the Eagles, if you're getting that out of him as a rookie,
man,
you're going to be just fine if you're Denver.
You ain't lying. And you brought up a great point too. Like the fact that you have the reigning Defensive Player of the Year on the other side, like
that helps.
It does. And you're going to have your opportunities to make plays, and you're in one-on-one situations. And I think, again, just when you're in that division with the Justin Herberts of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, you're going to be a target.
Well, yeah, I was about to say they're going to throw the football, and I think you could make a similar argument though for Carter, like you were saying with Thibodeau, is now that Kayvon Thibodeau has started to become the player we thought he was coming out of Oregon, that sets you up where you're not Abdul Carter going there and you are the guy, right? Like where you have to be the guy that's going to get double teamed because you already have that presence in Thibodeau. So that helps you if you're a younger guy where, okay, yeah, if you go out there and you absolutely light it up, you're going to start getting those double teams, but at least early on, they're going to make you earn that respect while they're focusing more on what they know they have to deal with in Thibodeau. So I think both of those guys in good situations because they have running mates at their position who are so good that it's going to give them more opportunity.
And another team that, they had some injuries that kind of derailed their season in the San Francisco 49ers. Mykel Williams being opposite end of Joey Bosa there in San Francisco in a Robert Saleh defense. You got Fred Warner behind you at the linebacker spot.
Sorry, it was Nick Bosa. Joey's in Buffalo.
Joey's in Buffalo? Okay, so Nick, one of those Bosa brothers. But we know what the Bosa brother is. Like like when he turns it on, like he can truly change a game. And now if you're Mykel Williams, you get a chance to practice with that every day. And when you have your opportunities, when we saw what he could do when he was at Georgia, we saw that when the first game of the season against Clemson, it was like, okay, number 13 is an absolute problem. And then he had an injury, missed a couple games, and then Texas rolled around. That was his first game back, and he ends up sacking Quinn Ewers, I think, 2 or 3 times. And it's like, okay, he's 100% now. So I think just his ability as well, being in the system with Robert Saleh, we know how he's been on the defensive side of the ball. As a defensive coordinator, he brings the best out. And I think that what San Francisco lost because of injury on the offensive side, and yes, Deebo Samuel's gone, but you still got C-Mac back there, and you still got Ricky Pearsall, who's developing to be one of the better receivers in the league. I think that defense, they hit a home run with Mykel Williams as well, pairing him up with Nick Bosa.
No, yeah, I think that's a great pick, and I think I'll be honest, I had kind of forgotten about this as well, but their new defensive coordinator is Robert Saleh.
Yep.
So when in terms of he is one, things did not work out at the Jets with him as a head coach, but as a defensive mind, no doubt in my mind that he is automatically one of the top defensive coordinators in the entire NFL. And so going into a system like that where we've seen what Nick Bosa has been able to do for them off the edge as well. Again, going into a situation where you're going to have early playing time, you're going to have that path to getting on the field early, and having a running back like Bosa is just going to give you more opportunities. So yeah, I mean, I think the 49ers absolutely knocked it out of the park there. And again, this is just a situation where, the 49ers disappointed last year. They had a lot of injury problems, but this is a team that is much more talented than what their record indicated last year. And so getting to have a pick this early on at number 11 and getting a guy as impactful as Mykel Williams, that's things are looking up for San Francisco defensively. I think they're going to have a nice bounce back year this year.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. We'll take a look at some college football now that spring has concluded. Just kind of get a general feel of what we expect some of these teams to look like in the fall. We'll keep the conversation going. If you want to talk draft, you want to talk college football with us as well on the other side, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
(9:31). Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell, John Saber here with you. G-Mac and Cole, they'll be back with you on Monday. Spent a lot of time today talking about round 1 of the NFL draft last night. Round 2 coming up tonight at 6 p.m. You're going to get rounds 2 and 3 today. Rounds 4 through 7 tomorrow. Also, a quick reminder, you do have the Birmingham Stallions taking on the Memphis Showboats tonight at Protective Stadium. So get out there and pack Protective as the Stallions are looking to win their 4th game in a row. All right, so we're going to get back into a little bit of the college football conversation here in just a moment, but the good segue for that is the transfer portal, because the transfer portal is still going on. So today is the last day for college football players. If you want to get in the portal, you can still come out of the portal after today, but you have to file your paperwork, be in there by the end of today. The basketball portal are closed earlier in the week, so you still have guys that can come out of it. But again, basketball portal's closed, football portal closes tonight. So we're almost done with this, and now we will just see where these players land. But we do have, for Alabama, don't call it a hot streak, but from no portal players to back-to-back days with portal players and at the same position, Alabama lands a commitment from Troy tight end Brody Dalton yesterday. That was a name that we've heard about for some time now circulating around Alabama, but he joins Jack Samarco, the tight end from West Virginia that the Tide picked up on Wednesday. So back-to-back tight end pickups there for Alabama out of the portal, their first 2 portal additions of the spring cycle. And how about the basketball portal, Damian? A little bit of a family reunion going down in Tuscaloosa today, perhaps, as it was reported last night that Rylan Griffin is going to be on campus visiting with Alabama and Nate Oates today.
Oh, boy.
Potentially reuniting with the Alabama Crimson Tide. If you forgot, he transferred out last season, went to Kansas, played this year at Kansas, didn't have the success that I think he was probably expecting to have, and now he's back in the portal, so he will be in Tuscaloosa today. So something to monitor there for the Alabama basketball front.
Would you welcome him back with open arms?
It would depend on the dollar amount. I think he's a nice player, right? He's a pretty good 3-and-D guy. Like when he is on, he can be excellent. He just hasn't shown the consistency. And so again, my thing with him is, all right, so you felt comfortable leaving last year because you probably thought, A, I can get more money, but B, didn't know what, I guess, your role was going to be on the team. I don't feel like now you come back and feel like you automatically are going to have a starting spot or anything. So we'll see. I thought that was interesting, though, because that had been rumored for a while, but now it's official. Rylan Griffin visiting Alabama today.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the college football front, Conrad alluded to, a couple guys came into the transfer portal and landed at Alabama there at the tight end position, but you didn't really hear too much about guys leaving out. Auburn had two guys hit the portal. But overall, now since spring is over, how are you feeling now heading into the season it was quiet spring, so it obviously tells you that both of the teams here in the state are comfortable with the guys that they have. They feel pretty confident with the depth and as far as, changing the numbers and things. But kind of just your overall feeling. You don't have to really put a win expectation, but just how are you feeling heading into the season for both Alabama and Auburn?
Yeah, well, I'll say, so for the portal front, here in the spring, I think it is a good sign that, again, so for Auburn, for example, right, you've had a couple guys go out of the portal that were defensive backs. Well, you brought in a defensive back from Tulane earlier in the week. I know there's another guy from Miami that I believe they're still having conversations with as well. That's another cornerback. So you have to feel good about that, right? Because the guys that left probably looked around and said, hey, that's one of the position groups we've heard about this spring has been excellent for Auburn. They have a lot of young talent there in the secondary, just like Alabama does. But so you have to feel pretty good about that, right? You're losing guys that, okay, maybe they were your 4th or 5th string guys in the secondary. So that's not going to be a big impact. And you're able to bring in somebody that you think can make maybe a more immediate impact. So I think for both of them, just keeping these rosters intact is so important. And I think both of these programs have done a really good job of that. I think for Alabama, getting the tight ends, that was necessary. You needed that because you are very, very thin at that position because of injuries. You had a couple guys that are now potentially going to be drafted this weekend in Oots and Dupree. So you needed to fill that void. I would still like to see maybe a tackle. Now, there's a lot of teams that would like to see a tackle, but I think for Alabama, that's another spot that you would look at. If there's a tackle out there that you can bring in for depth, you could certainly do that. Again, defensive line, I don't think there's a guy out there right now you look at as, oh, that's a guy that can come in here and be a game breaker because they would have been grabbed already. You had Bo Atkinson, but he's going to Ohio State, the North Carolina product there. That was kind of the big name. But I think overall you have to feel happy about it. The big surprise for me, and I think a lot of people, is you didn't lose a quarterback. Now, I guess you still have 12 hours or so for that to happen. But I was straight up told to expect Austin Mack to hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And so the fact that that hasn't happened, and that was multiple different people around the program that were saying that. And it made sense, right? You look around, you go, okay, if Ty Simpson's the guy this year, Keelan Russell's going to be the guy of the future. You know, I'm kind of in limbo here, but it's getting to keep him on campus because you're always one play away. You never hope somebody gets injured, but you want a guy that you feel confident can go in there and sling it and have the confidence to do that. And I think that was excellent for Alabama to be able to keep him there, at least as of now, to keep that quarterback room intact. So I think you have to feel really good about both of these programs, how things have looked in the offseason. We still have question marks, right? We still want to know what Jackson Arnold's going to be able to do, what Ty Simpson's going to be able to do. But I think around them, you feel really good about the wide receiver position for both teams, the running back position. I think offensive line, maybe another question mark a little bit for both of them, but you have a lot of returning faces for both Alabama and Auburn you feel good about. And then defensively, I think both of these teams should expect to be two of the better defensive teams in the league. What you saw DJ Durkin turn that Auburn defense into last year, have a lot of young guys that are now going into year two. Same thing for Alabama. The second half of the year, that defense under Kane Womack they were pretty darn good.
Yep.
And so now you have a lot of guys coming back again, a lot of guys that are coming back for another year. Overton, Damani Jackson, Deontay Lawson coming back was huge. So I think you feel really, really good if you're an Alabama fan, if you're an Auburn fan, very optimistic going into the fall. But of course, we all know it's going to come down to what are you getting from your quarterback play, and that potentially is going to dictate what happens to both of these teams this year.
Yeah, and I feel the same way that you feel on both fronts as well. And I think the biggest question mark on both sides is just the quarterback. You know, Jackson Arnold coming in from Oklahoma, has he gotten over that mental hurdle?
Yep.
That's kind of just the biggest question mark that you have. Has he truly overcome the mental aspect of what broke him at Oklahoma? Because the talent is there. There's no question about it. Now, if you're Hugh Freeze as well, the pressure is on. Like, this is our make or break year. Like, this is it.
No doubt.
It has to work. And with the talent that's returning with, the receiver room, yes, the running back by committee should be able to suffice what you lost in Jarquez Hunter. In the backfield, offensive line still has, they were good. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're, top quality SEC. I'm not an offensive line guy. As long as they can get people moved out the way, they should be fine. And to your point on DJ Durkin, the defensive side of the ball, a lot of young cats that were forced to play last year now take us that next step up.
That's why you play those young guys, right?
Exactly. Now they've been thrown in the fire. They know what to expect. And as long as they lock in, do what they need to do, I would feel extremely optimistic if I'm an Auburn fan, and for Alabama as well. I think, again, you know what you got in that receiver room. You know what you got offensive line wise, running back. The biggest thing is just the quarterback. If Ty Simpson, he doesn't have to go out there and be, Michael Penix Jr. with Kalen DeBoer when he was at Washington. Doesn't have to go out there and set passing records like he was Tua. Just don't turn the ball over.
If you want to.
Yeah, ain't nobody going to be mad at you.
If you want to.
Ain't nobody going to be mad at you. But I think that as long as he can be consistent and not put Alabama in binds, don't have him, in third and long situations, just go out there and essentially be a more polished Greg McElroy. Just don't blow it. Don't lose it for him. And defensively, again, we saw what Kane Womack was able to do later on in the season once everybody really started to hone in and understand their jobs, and a lot of key pieces coming back on that defensive side. I think on both sides of the state, you should feel pretty good about where you're at.
Yeah, and I think the hardest thing, right, from a fan perspective is there's nothing that you can see or hear about the quarterback situations that's going to make you feel, I guess, sold on it until you actually see it in the actual seat, right? Because it's not a situation where you have a quarterback coming in or a quarterback that's in place that's a stud and you don't have to worry about that. And you're just, all right, let me see. Oh, okay, what are we hearing about the offensive line? Okay, they're coming together. All right, they got some wiggle to them. They're big, but they got some movement. Oh, we've got this wide receiver who's absolutely turning heads in practice. Like, those are the things that you can easily believe and get excited about. But I feel like for the quarterback position, with both of these guys, with Jackson Arnold seeing what he did last year and the struggles he had, and then for Ty Simpson, a guy that you still have a lot of people going, so why are we just now talking about him 3 or 4 years into his career at Alabama? you're not going to sell the fan base on either one of those guys until they actually hit the field and put their money where their mouth is and produce for you in the regular season. I think that's the hardest part of being a fan is all this stuff that you hear is great. We can sit here and talk about how great the teams look around those positions, but we all know if you don't have that quarterback in place, you can have great talent around them, but you're not going to reach the expectations that you have set upon yourself if Jackson Arnold looks like the Oklahoma Jackson Arnold, if Ty Simpson can't figure it out, and then you have to go to an Austin Mack who's turnover prone because he's too much of a gunslinger, or you have a Keelan Russell that has to play too early and he has some rookie struggles or freshman struggles, and then you don't know what to make of it. So I think that's the hardest part is things look really, really good, but again, got to wait for the actual season to start and see how these guys are going to respond on the field, especially in SEC play, because you have an Auburn team, like you said. Not only do you need to prove that Hugh Freeze is the guy and that he is worthy of continuing to be the head coach there, but you want to show that, hey, we're getting close to sniffing a college football playoff, right? You want to feel like, hey, maybe we're in the conversation this year or we're a year away from being in that conversation. Then again, for Alabama, obviously, it's playoff or bust. If you don't go back to the playoff this year, things are going to get all doom and gloom in Tuscaloosa, and that's a lot of expectations that are put on the shoulders of Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson.
Yeah, and kind of looking just the SEC as a whole, is there a team that's starting to kind of grow on you a little bit with everything that you've seen in spring or heard in spring that, okay, like this season may be a little interesting?
Oh, you know who I'm going? Oklahoma.
Oh, you locked in, aren't you? You saw them in person last year, and what they did to Alabama, that's what. Okay, so it's kind of like me.
It's because of John Mateer. I am a huge
big Mateer guy.
I am a huge because I don't think people understand. You know, you can go and look at his stats and go, oh, okay, you know, he threw for over 3,000 yards. He had like 30 touchdowns. That's great. The dude also had 15 rushing touchdowns. Like this is a dude, an absolute dude who played at Washington State. And so nobody got to see him play. And I know people are, well, he played at Washington State. So did Cam Ward.
Yep.
Look,
Hey.
and who were we talking about last night? So I'm really high on Oklahoma. I think they've done a good job of, you know, they had to replace a lot of guys, bringing in new receivers, and you're not going to be that. Surely you're not going to have that many injury problems again, right? But you brought in a new offensive coordinator to pair with your new elite quarterback who worked together last year. We know what Brent Venables can do defensively. I thought defensively Oklahoma was actually pretty good last year, all things considered in the SEC. So yeah, Oklahoma is that team that I'm not sitting here telling you they're going to make the playoff, but compared to where they were last year and what they've done in the offseason, I think Oklahoma is in line to have a much better second year in the SEC. What about you?
I think I'm sipping that Billy Napier Kool-Aid, man. I'm going with Florida.
I like that one.
I think the DJ Lagway experiment is going to work because we saw signs of it last year.
It was working last year.
Yeah, we saw signs of it last year, and it's, man, okay, Florida ain't sneaking up on nobody anymore. Like, this is kind of, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're probably one of the, college football playoff expectations.
Yeah.
But I think that they're going to, they knocked off Ole Miss last year, knocked off LSU, two teams that were vying and, fighting for potential playoff contention. And Florida physically was beating them up. Like, I think the whole identity from the Urban Meyer days or when Dan Mullen was there was a lot of flash, like they were spreading things out. Nah, this Florida identity under Billy Napier, it's we walking into Gainesville, yeah, it's hot, it's swampy, but this is about to be a fist fight. And I think with what DJ Lagway brings to this offense and everything that he does offensively, yeah, I think there are a few pieces on defense, but they were good enough last year to really wreck shop with a lot of teams.
Yep.
But I think just the identity that Billy Napier is like, hey, I'm the coach here. I ain't got time to hear what all these naysayers got to say. We finna get into we down here ready to fight at Florida.
Well, and I think a big part of it too is, right, you have confidence for the first time in a few years of we are on the right path, right? Like you can sense it, you can feel it, you can see it with your own eyes. Going back and watching stuff like the Ole Miss game, for example, from last year, you can see maybe for the first time in a handful of years, all right, the path is there, right? We just have to make it happen, but the path is clearly there for Florida to significantly improve, and that's why they are going to be a very popular dark horse playoff pick, I think, as we get closer to the season.
Absolutely. We'll take a look at the other side. Is there a team or player or coach that we kind of ain't really feeling heading into the fall this season on college football as we wrap up on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning? 9:49 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate y'all hopping on with us, enjoying Damian, Conrad, John, having some fun here as we wrap up, head into the exciting, I guess you would say. I mean, I'm pretty much like, once we got Cam Ward, it's not, it is what it is. I'll pay attention.
Just get rid of all the other picks. You don't need them?
No, don't need them. We got what we need.
Right. Okay.
We got what we need. We appreciate y'all hopping on with us. Appreciate Teron Davenport and Lance Zerline hopping in, talking some NFL draft with us as well. But before we get to back to the college football discussion of teams that we're kind of, a little iffy about heading into the season, we got to do our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. And John, where can they get that TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa?
They can get that Super Sofa or anything for the home at TD's Fine Furniture. Check out their spring clearance sale going on now with markdowns up to 30% throughout the entire store, including their Flex Steel home store. You can pick it up today or have it delivered. That's TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton.
All right, Conrad. I know you're a little not used to this, but this is what we do on Fridays.
Okay.
You got one game.
One game?
One game, no matter what sport, obviously, because we've had Greg who's, jumped for joy on the golf weekend.
So I can be selfish and I can pick whatever I want.
Whatever you want. You got one game. If you had that TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa just in your house, you got to pop on down to watch it. You only had one game. What you going?
I'm popping a squat tonight at 6:05 for first pitch as the Toronto Blue Jays are heading up to New York to take on my New York Yankees in a battle for position there in the American League East. So the Yankees with a 2-game lead as it stands right now, looking to create some more separation this weekend. So that would where I'm going the whole series this weekend, but tonight, 6 o'clock, Blue Jays Yankees. That's my Super Sofa game of the week.
I got you. Well, tonight I am going, I'll be heading out of town, but when I do get stationary, I got to watch my Birmingham Stallions tonight at 7 p.m. They're taking on the Memphis Showboats on Fox. I'm not going to do it, but
be respectful.
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
okay.
But the Fox broadcast, wonderful people will be down here in Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah.
Very talented crew.
Yeah. I don't want to get a chance to see them in person tonight. But the Birmingham Stallions and the Memphis Showboats will be my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend.
Are you more interested in the game or the
game?
Okay.
Big
really?
Stallions guy.
Just have Chris text you updates then, if that's the case. If you're so interested in the game and nothing else.
No, I get
Mr.
one of the
Degenerate.
I get one of the horsemen.
Y'all can FaceTime from the
Yeah.
shirtless section. You can take your shirt off and
Switch it like you had like a helicopter. Yeah. As for me, I mean, yeah, there's some UFL, yeah, there's some NBA, but I'm a draft guy. I know it's not a game. I guess it is a bit of a game because you got to pick the right players and everything. And apparently Damian doesn't need to because he got his one. He's pulling a Saints from 98, 99, whatever. It's like, we got Ricky Williams. That's all we need. We need nothing else. But no, give me the NFL draft, which you can catch a little bit of that here on Jocks 94.5, but also on ESPN throughout the entire weekend. That's my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. Get that Super Sofa or anything for the home at TD's Fine Furniture. Check out the spring clearance sale going on now. Markdowns up to 30% throughout the store, including their Flex Steel home store. You can pick it up today or have it delivered. That's TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton.
So I wanted to bring this. I just saw this. This stat just kind of blew my mind about the NFL draft real quick. So Ashton Genty last night was taken 6th overall by the Raiders. He got a 4-year rookie deal worth $35.8 million.
Dang.
Ashton Genty is now the second highest paid running back in the NFL.
Behind Saquon.
Correct.
Boy.
Off of his rookie deal, he is the second highest paid running back in the NFL.
Well, Derrick Henry's he's in his final year at Baltimore this season.
You were looking for a reunion?
Listen, absolutely 1,000%.
Why? No, they didn't want him the first time.
Yeah, no.
Whatever.
They let him walk.
Whatever. That was old management. We got a whole new squad in there now. Oh, we'll open the red. We'll run the 2-tone blue carpet for you, brother. Come on back. But when he does sit down and talk to Baltimore about what price that he wants, they ain't gonna say no.
Yeah, that's wild
insane
to me though. That guaranteed money is the second most of any running back in the NFL. So there's guys that are going to make more on an annual basis, but in terms of the guaranteed money coming his way, nobody is better set than him and Saquon. So that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but going back to the college football conversation before we get up out of here, is there a team, player, coach that you after the spring has wrapped up that kind of just got a little iffy feeling heading into the fall?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where I'm iffy or maybe not as. I mean, I don't want to kick them while they're down because it's the easy answer, right? But it's Tennessee with what you lost in Nico and now bringing in Aguilar. Like I don't know
Dang, bro.
Do you not agree with me?
No.
Why?
No.
You're just dead set that it's all going to be
Dog,
sunshine and roses without
Do you
Nico.
not know who their head coach is?
I'm very
He's
well
done
aware.
it with worse, man. He's won with worse.
So you're such a big fan of him that you are now actively offering your fandom for this upcoming season to other programs. But you're going to sit here and tell me
that is for the listeners. I want them to say, like, I get so sick and tired of getting calls and texts like, "Oh, Damien needs to pick a team." Well, this year I am, but come on, man, Tennessee.
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but I think they're the easy pick for based on what's happened in the last couple of weeks. Thinking they're going to not be as good as I was expecting coming into the offseason. You know I'm right. It might hurt.
It does,
but
it really does.
Okay, well then what's your pick?
I was going Georgia.
Okay.
I thought we were going to be on the same.
Oh, wow. Yeah, not going Tennessee. We're going Georgia. Wow.
Only because, like, no Carson Beck is. What if Gunnar Stockton doesn't work, man? They lost a lot on defense. This ain't the old just roll the ball out. This is Georgia, man. I just thought, like, a little hesitation, a little reservation on the defensive side.
We'll see about that.
But, man.
The absolute right answer is Tennessee.
Yeah, thank you, Say-Bear. I was about to say, right. Damon, you're not.
What about Vanderbilt? Like, y'all just so happy about Vanderbilt? Do you think they're going to be 6-6 or 7-5 again this year?
We are asking the same guy who told us this.
To elevate at the quarterback position. If we can keep him upright, we'll let us lead the league in passing yards this year. I was blind.
Don't need to say anything else.
It was blind optimism, man. It was blind optimism.
Very blind.
I got too much Titan blood in me, man. Dog, y'all just beat me up.
You got Cam Ward. You're fine.
Exactly. That's
Enjoy
exactly what we're doing. NFL draft coverage. You keep it locked here on Jocks 94.5 tonight and all weekend. 3-man front is up next.